Okay, hello guys. Tonight's episode is talking to a socialist. I am to have a special guest. His name is Joey. He claims to be a socialist. I asked him if he was a Democrat, and he said no. He's against the Democratic Party, which is interesting because we know that they follow the socialism agenda. At least most of them do lately. But nonetheless, he's a special guest. If he shows up, hopefully he does, so I can interview him and ask him a lot of questions. Last time he was here, he made some shocking claims about his political views and how he thinks the US should change its laws and accommodate the socialism agenda. Christina said, "You're good. TikTok has been messing up lately." It could be. It could be. But nevertheless, guys, let's get started. So, Joey, if you're out there, you're welcome to come whenever you want. All right. He's supposed to be the special guest. So we'll see. Ruben said, "Do you think you're better than a Mexican?" I'm not sure where that question is coming from. I never said that I'm better than anybody. And to answer you, it's no. I don't think I'm better than a Mexican. That's ridiculous. Moss said, "Interesting, though. They were totally Democrats." Deacon said, "Yesterday's live was very informative." That's correct. Yeah, yesterday we had two ladies that worked in the benefit field, and they gave us a lot of information in regards to how the migrants are getting a ton of benefits from the government. Deacon asked, "Why Mexican though?" Yeah, I'm not sure. That person brought up Mexican specifically. I'm not sure why, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, yeah, tonight's episode is talking to a socialist. I did confirm with the special guest earlier today. I'm not sure if he's going to show up. He should have been here by now. But if he doesn't, it's okay. You guys can ask anything you want. You can join also if you want to have a conversation about it. Last time he came here, Joey said, again, he claims to be a socialist. He said that in his perfect world, or the perfect America for him would be if we had free housing, free health care, free food, and any other basic needs that all humans need, according to him. And he wouldn't mind living in a country where everything was given for free. And then I said to him, oh, he also mentioned college, by the way. He said that college should be free. And so I said, well, if college is free and housing is free and food is free and everything is free pretty much, then what's the point of getting paid? What's the point of working? Because he also said that he wanted to eliminate the Federal Reserve so that the government itself can print the money that we need. And look, the Federal Reserve is not that popular. I get that. There's a lot of questions on that end too. I'll give him that. But he said that the government should continue printing money, similar to what we're doing right now anyway, right? But this time under the pure control of the government in power. And so I said to him, but why would you need to print money if you want everything for free? And so he said that he sort of brought up that once I brought up that point to him, he responded in a way where he said, well, maybe that is a good point, because I said, well, there's no point to have an economic system when everything is for free. And I asked him, so at that point, people can go to work without getting paid, right? Because you're getting everything for free. And he said, paraphrasing here, that he wouldn't mind, because in his political views, right now, there's a lot of people that go to work and are unhappy with their jobs, and they're doing it just to make money. But in his socialist world or point of view, people would go to work out of the passion they have for their careers and out of the kindness of their heart. So basically just volunteering, if you will, for the good of humanity, which to me is very unrealistic. And I did press on him I continue pressing him on, what if your neighbor doesn't want to work at that point? Because what's the point, right? If you're getting everything for free, then why would you want to work? And he said, well, you know what? I would rather see my neighbor being lazy. I would rather see my neighbor sleeping the whole day and not doing anything, as long as he wasn't homeless. So that was his main concern, is that everyone should be off the streets and living somewhere. And he believes that we can all afford it and just get it for free. What he doesn't realize is that some governments have tried this and they have failed miserably. And then once you get to that point, the power is held by a small group of people that then go ahead and take your liberty. So that's what I was discussing with him. But, he's not here yet. I'm not sure what happened to him. Maybe he doesn't want to have the conversation. I don't know. But, if you're out there, Joey, you're free to join whenever you want. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions, you can go ahead, or share any statements. You can go ahead and we can continue with this live here as we try to get through without a special guest. Deacon said, when's the interview with Christina? She said she housed them. Yes, that's true. Christina's interview is supposed to be this Friday. She's being a little diva, though, so I'm not sure she's going to do it. It's interesting. These liberals / socialists, right? When you press them, and then they tend to get defensive. And she's been here a couple of times, so I'll give her that. And then I reached out to her and I told her to set up that interview where she will be the special guest, so she can go ahead and share her point of view and her political views, and then we can talk about it. And so we agreed that it will be this Friday. However, she's been saying some weird things, via messages and stuff. So I'm not sure she's going to show up, but it's for this Friday. So we'll see what happens. And again, look, Joey's supposed to be tonight. He's still not here. I'm not sure why. But I know he was here, I think, yesterday or a couple of days ago. So he knows that tonight we'll be talking about socialism. But yeah, so Christina's for this Friday, supposedly. We'll see if she shows up. Let's see, we got some questions here. So then Argentinian capitalists will save the country, right? They have liberty on the way, Jesse asked. Apparently so. Argentina's been falling apart. They have a new leader now. He faces a lot of challenges ahead, but we'll see. We'll see if he's going to maintain and continue on what he says is going to do. All right, Big Ed said, what do you think the immigrants are coming to the USA? Everything is free for them. Is that a rhetorical question? Sounds like a rhetorical question. Yeah, we mentioned that they're getting a lot of benefits. So obviously, the message is going to spread around town, and more of them will continue to come. I actually saw a report today where I think there was around 300,000 migrants made it thus far to the USA for the month of December, breaking records. That's what's happening right now under the Biden administration. Let's see. Bigot said immigrants are coming in through El Paso, Texas. In through El Paso, Texas border as we speak. That's correct. They are still there waiting to get processed, some of them, and there's more coming. That's just not going to stop, at least until Biden leaves the White House. Weiss said they are now being flies in Chicago. Oh, flied in to Chicago. Yeah, some migrants are getting free plane tickets. Well, it's free for them, but we are paying for it, the taxpayers. And obviously, they're getting bused to a lot of these sanctuary cities. So that's where we are today. Bigot said the bad thing about it, we don't know who's coming in and what they plan to do in the country. It's true. No data. The data is just scarce because there's no vetting system for them, not a proper one anyway. So it's very scary. Very scary times. MA said, I am afraid they are invading us, mostly men. I believe that's what you meant. Yes, there's been an increase of military aged men coming through the border right now. Bigot said the immigrants are not even getting processed. They are crossing the border highway, then getting run or running. I think that's what you meant. Yeah, some immigrants are being processed. I think from what we've seen, there's a there are long lines, or a huge number of them are waiting to get processed. And there's been reports that they are there freezing, if you will, because it's getting chilly in that area, I guess. I'm not sure, because Border Patrol is overwhelmed with the amount of migrants that are coming in. And so that process is going to take a while, but even if they get processed, right? Okay, we have their fingerprints, those that get processed, because there's another number that just are considered gotaways. But those that get processed, still, we don't have the proper criminal background checks from wherever they're coming from. We don't have their financial status. What's the real reason they're coming here? There's just no data. So they're processed, but it's just sort of to make believe, if you will, in my opinion, that there's some form of system that the Biden administration is doing, but it's a mess. It's totally out of control. Down the border highway, El Paso, Texas, there's signs of motorists to watch out for pedestrians. White said there's a chickenpox outbreak in Chicago shelters. I did report on that. There was some form of chickenpox outbreak in Chicago. I believe mostly kids, but I'm not sure if that's better now. I hope it is. They cut through the wall and they're waiting to run in the country. Some of them are. Some of them are, guys. It's just a mess. I'm not sure how the country is going to hold for another year of this. Honestly, I'm not sure, but something is going to happen. It has to. Lib said, over 12,000 processes by Border Patrol. How many crossings without register? Exactly. There are the gotaways that I think it was estimated back at the beginning of the year, was it, or spring? Over 1 point or around 1.5 million gotaways. Alien said, so you're a Democrat. No, I'm not a Democrat. Jeez, no. The episode for tonight is supposed to be talking to a socialist, and I'm supposed to be talking right now to Joey as a special guest, but he hasn't shown up. Maybe he doesn't want to talk anymore. I'm not sure. But the platform is there for him to share his socialist ideas. JB said, people here don't even know what socialism is. That's correct. I agree. Those that support socialism in America have no clue what socialism is. It's pure communism. That's what it is, where you lose your freedom in exchange of basic needs being covered by the government. It's just corruption. That's all it is. And communism. That's what happened in Venezuela. Let me see if I can reach out to Joey again. So I reached out to Joey. I just sent him a message and I told him that we are waiting for him. I know he saw my messages before, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. That's what Ed said here. That's why the immigrants are coming to the United States from Venezuela. Yes, I believe so. A lot of those that are coming through the border right now, talking about the Venezuelan migrants right now, in my opinion, a lot of them supported the socialism / communism government in Venezuela for the past 2 decades. And now that they've seen that it didn't work, it collapsed, full of corruption and dictatorship, if you will. Now they want to come here and reap the benefits from the US. With the same mentality, by the way, a lot of them. We've seen that in social media. We've seen that even in some local news. That's the mentality they're bringing. And that's why I'm speaking against it, because I know what they are about. They're not going to fool me. They can fool CNN with the little stories, but they're not going to fool me. I know what they're about. I know what they supported over there. And it didn't work, and now they want to come here? No, that shouldn't be that way. They're taking advantage because Biden is accepting it. But I really believe that Trump is going to win next year, and this will be eradicated completely. That's what I hope anyway, but I believe it's going to happen. JB said communism has never been fully implemented because it is always taken down by the West. Just saying. Well, I can tell you that Venezuela's communism is up and running. It's been there for the past, over 20 years now, I think. So it hasn't been taken down. It's big and alive over there right now. JB said, and I don't like any form of government currently: capitalism, communism, etc. Lou said 24 years. Exactly. 24 years of communism in Venezuela. So it's still up and running. JB said Venezuela is under the U.S. thumb. How so? How so? If it was the case, they wouldn't be in power right now. But they are. No word on Joey yet, guys. He's a special guest for tonight. He's a socialist. I'm waiting for him to show up, but maybe he doesn't want to talk. I don't know. Maybe he got scared. Not sure what's happening. But just letting you know that I am not a socialist. That's just a topic for tonight. Guys, just a little update here. Hold on a second. Guys, just yeah, so I think Joy is a little bit upset. I'm not sure why, because we spoke last time, and I let him on the platform a couple of times after that. Yeah, so I think Joy. So I think he's not going to come, to be honest with you. I just checked his page, and it says that he no longer follows my platform. So if you don't follow me, he's not responding to the messages. I'm guessing he doesn't want to come and talk about his socialist views. You know, it's funny because when I had Joey last week, he was all over the place. As I mentioned earlier, he said that he wanted everything for free and he wanted living wages. And then I told him that it didn't make sense because at that point, why would we go to work and why would we get paid if we're going to all get the same benefits? And so that's when he said that he didn't mind if currency didn't exist. So he was all over the place. And that's the thing that I noticed with a lot of these socialists, that when you press them and you ask them questions to go deeper into their train of thought when it comes to socialism and their views, they just break little by little and they just don't make any sense whatsoever, because that's what socialism is: a senseless political agenda. It just doesn't work. It looks cute on paper when you say you're going to get free healthcare, free food. It looks cute on paper, but it never works. It doesn't work. Yeah, guys. So unfortunately, I think Joy's not going to come, to be honest with you. But we tried. You are here. You're witnessing that the topic is talking to a socialist. I reached out to him several times. I'm here calling him out publicly, telling him to join the conversation. I'm not sure if he's watching. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he doesn't want to join. Maybe he's scared. I don't know. But, you know, if I had those strong views like he does, I wouldn't be scared. I would come here and talk about it. I mean, he did before, so I'm not sure what changed. Maybe because I pressed him last time and I was really trying to break his views in sections and tell him how much they didn't make sense. Maybe he didn't like that. I'm not sure. But typically liberals and the left, they don't really like to have conversations. And that's why I doubt that this Friday, Christina will show up. She probably won't show up, but I'll still come and I'll still open the live for her to join if she wants to. So JB is talking about Venezuela over here in the comments section. He's saying that corporations had to go away. When you look at most countries, none of them are true capitalism or socialism, but a mix. Well, he said had to go away. I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to. Everything is ultimately controlled by major corporations. That is it. That's what JB is saying in the comment section here. And Lou is replying saying that U.S. corporations left after Chavez took over and made a huge propaganda against capitalism. Yeah, that's correct. Similar to what's happening here in America. As you can see, there's a lot of anti-corporate talk going around that eat the rich, right? They should pay taxes. They should pay more taxes. They should subsidize health care. You know, the typical socialist talking point that us Venezuelans know about. Deacon said, yes, I have the same feeling. She's not going to show up. And he's talking about Christina. Yeah, Deacon, I think the same. I think she's not going to show up. Unfortunately, no response from Joey. Already messaged him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 text messages and no response. No response. And he knows that I scheduled this live with him last week. And then I messaged him earlier today in the morning. He saw the message, no reply. And then I continue messaging him all the way up to I went live. So it is what it is. Ronald said, we are literally paying taxes for the rich. Ronald, you can say that, but the rich are providing or giving the opportunity of employment for a lot of Americans, right? This country was built on that, on small businesses, and corporations helped accelerate the growth of this country. And look at the innovation we have in tech. You know, we are far way ahead than anyone else. So you can talk against corporations all you want, but they do provide a lot of opportunities for people that want to work hard and have a job.
You know, socialism has worked for some European countries. I mean,
I
in
mean, but the point I'm trying to make is I would say that those European countries are capitalists as well.
yeah,
Now, I
that's
would say they're a different form of capitalism compared to America,
oh
right?
sure, sure. Ours
But
is
but
like
but my point is, and if anything, you could use that as an argument to support capitalism. But my point would still stand that like neither Venezuela nor like if you want to say the Nordic model, I would say are examples of socialism, or at least their socialist economy. They're just a heavily regulated form of capitalism, just one done more effectively than another.
I guess fragile. The reason why I bring that up is because the dangers of socialism, right? When it comes to, that's why I said who would be in control, because that's where it turns into communism. So yes, you can say that
I
Venezuela.
don't.
Hold on,
Again, I
you can
still
say that
don't see.
Venezuela wasn't 100% socialist.
It wasn't
They
that they
are a
weren't
com-
100% socialist. It's just that
well,
they weren't socialist.
they are a communist country. They
They're
are a
not
dictatorship
communists.
government. They are communist.
What,
Of
what
course
do you
they
no,
think
are.
communism
no.
Look,
That's
is?
look, hold on. Just to clarify here, okay? Communism definition here, per Google, is a type of government as well as an economic system in way of creating and sharing wealth. In a
That's
communist
not what Google
system,
says.
In a communist system, this is per Britannica.com. In a communist system, individual people do not own land, factories, or machinery. Instead, the government or the whole community owns these things. Everyone is supposed to share the wealth that they create. Now,
Sure.
in
And the point is,
In
they weren't
Venezuela,
that.
they are a socialist country per what the
I mean, per
government
the
says.
definition of
Hold on.
communism, they weren't communists. That's
Hold
all I'm
on.
saying.
Hold on. In Venezuela, they are a socialist country per what the government says, but we know that they are lying. They are pure communist slash
But
dictatorship.
wait.
Lou,
Again, wait.
Lou,
Wait. No, host. I am still confused because you just read the definition of communism, right? Like I'm on, the Britannica page right now, right? Communism, political and economic doctrine that aims to replace private property and a profit-based economy with public ownership and communal control of at least the major means of production, right? This was not the case in Venezuela. I mean, as I just read, I mean, again, this is just from a Fox News article. I can find a more scholarly analysis if you want me to.
Fragile, what I'm
But the
trying to
point
tell you
is,
is that that's the cute version of it.
sure.
In
Right.
reality,
Even if you want to say in reality, it turns into like I would even call Cuba communist, right? And if you want to criticize Cuba, we could talk about Cuba. But the point is that like if we're going by the definition, right? Because words have meanings. We can't just apply words silly nilly, right? Like words have definitions, and if we were to apply this to Venezuela, they just weren't communist, unless you're just changing communist to mean dictatorship.
the thing is that that's the language they use. That's why I was asking you who's in control, because this is the language the socialists, the communists use to turn and get control over
Sure.
everything.
Again,
Chavez is not going to go in there and say, vote for me, I'm going to be a dictator. He's going
No.
to go and say, well, Lucid,
sure.
I'm going to help the
E-
people. You guys are going
Even
to
if
be in control. We're going to be a socialist country.
I
But the
really
dangers is of losing freedom. That's where I'm going with this. Yeah, Britannica
again,
says
my
that's
point is
that's
that
a cute
like
version
all of
of
these
describing it.
issues,
And by the
all
way,
of these issues exist in capitalist countries as well, right? I mean, none of it is unique. I mean, like you guys are even in that little spiel that you had. We're talking about like the Democrats silencing, I don't know, people who are trans or people who don't like trans people. I don't know what the point was there, but
No,
like the
the
Democrats are a
point,
capitalist party. They're not
the,
socialist.
I think you're
They wouldn't
not
describe
misunderstanding.
anymore.
themselves as
They're
socialist.
they're very socialist right now.
They're
They're
not
very pro
socialist.
socialism right now.
Okay,
Fragile,
what is socialism?
They want
Fragile,
free
let me
healthcare, don't they?
That doesn't make
For
you
everybody.
socialist.
They want free basic needs for everybody.
Again, that doesn't make you socialist.
That is socialism because
No, I mean,
socialism is based on
would
a
you say the
system.
UK is socialist?
Repeat that again. I couldn't hear you.
Would you say the UK is socialist?
I wouldn't say it's 100% socialist.
I wouldn't say they're socialist at all. And I don't think anyone in the UK would call themselves socialist because they're just not a socialist country. The point is, a lot of capitalist countries, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of capitalist countries have universal health care. Right? Having universal health care doesn't make you socialist. The point is that the American economy, right, and even if the Democrats were to get like the entire policy agenda passed, the American economy would still be built around private ownership of industry. It would still be built on commodity exchange, and it would still be built on wage labor. Right? The
But
Venezuelan
the way they are
economy.
presenting it, it would make it
Sure,
collapse.
sure. Again, I'm not even saying that what they want is good or what they want is bad. That's my point. Isn't like the morality of it. My point is that what they want wouldn't be not capitalist. America would still be a capitalist country if they got what they want. What
It
Venezuela,
wouldn't be capitalist because it would
it
collapse.
would. Okay. Even if Venezuela collapsed. My point is that Venezuela was never not capitalist. They had a capitalist economy, a poorly regulated one. I would agree with you there. I would agree that the government definitely largely contributed to the problems in Venezuela today, right? And I would also disagree with a lot of the policies regarding like personal freedoms in Venezuela. I'm not here to defend Venezuela. The point is that they just don't and haven't had a socialist economy.
Well, let me tell you something. Right now, as we speak, the government calls Venezuela a democratic country. Isn't that sarcastic,
I mean, sure. I guess. I mean,
And,
that still wouldn't make
and
it.
you know why he does that? Because first of all, they haven't even allowed elections for 24 years. So finally,
They had
wait,
elections more
wait,
recently.
wait,
I mean,
when,
the elections that put Maduro in initially. Again, even though I can't stand Maduro, I think he's an idiot. Um,
thank you.
well, I mean, they were internationally recognized,
But
right?
listen,
Like, even though, again, like I said, I don't approve of their leadership. I don't like their leadership. And I do think they've had issues with their democracy since. But they've had elections. I think it was 2014, maybe it was
Okay, let's
2013.
let Lou elaborate on that. Go
My
ahead, Lou.
my
You
bad.
have the word.
yeah, what I was about to say is that the only reason why Maduro got interested in hopefully having elections next year is because of the pressure of this illegal immigration that the United States put on the country and on his government. What was the condition? Listen, there are too many people from Venezuela illegals at this point. We cannot support them. We remind you there was no embassy, there was no, because the relationship with the United States end up almost 11, 12 years ago. So nothing, no economically, not politically, nothing. So all of a sudden, 2 months ago, uh, after all this crisis, Biden decides, guess what? We better start having a relationship with this country because what's going on with immigration is affecting our economy. So they decide to get together with a condition that the opposition, or the lady that is right now the number one in as an in the opposition party of whatever, uh, for her to be present during the meeting, and the condition was, okay, you allow to have elections next year. We need to control more the immigration, and by the way, we need your oil. So in other words, there were conditions imposed, and that was the only way that the relationships with Venezuela and the United States started recently. Why? Because it is not convenient for this country.
And by the way, Lou, are those elections? Who's going to control those elections? By the way,
And that's another thing, because before they created these local elections, blah blah blah, but the government controlled. There were not foreigners just to watch what's going on, because the government didn't allow it. So that was another condition. If there is elections next year, hopefully, that's what we expect. uh we're gonna bring people from other countries to watch, so hopefully we'll have clear and clean elections. But that's to be seen, because little bit, I don't know if you just heard that two American guys that were in jail in Venezuela and one in here, they exchanged. That was in the news today. That was another part of the deal, to exchange these prisoners. In the relationship started, but again, everything has been with this government so dark and so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Fragile is not familiarized with the situation that's going on and our south border with Texas and illegal immigration, and most of them are from our country. And the reason is because of that, because of the extremely bad economy and politics that this system has implemented, and it has not worked.
go ahead, Fragile. You can respond.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware, or at least not well, but I am somewhat aware of the situation in Venezuela. I do know that, especially since Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the sanctioning of the Western world against against Russia, right? America's needed to find alternative sources of oil. I mean, what she said was largely correct about America needing oil and then using that to sort of like leverage Venezuela into like holding elections. I mean, that's still largely true. I would still say that like none of this really addresses any of the critiques I brought up earlier of capitalism's role
It does.
in the
It does, because
exploitation.
everything.
Wait, hold on. I was just gonna say the point I was trying to make earlier, right, as to like my criticism of capitalism is its role in motivating the forms of like modern global exploitation, and its role of keeping countries, and I would say in a position that I would call a permanent underclass.
But
And,
Fred,
and
would you
good.
agree with us that or with me that it will always be in our system, capitalism, it will always be the rich, the middle class, and the poor. Do we agree on that?
I wouldn't define the classes that exist under capitalism in such a way. I would say the
Yeah, but I would.
primary groups. I would say
Exactly.
the two primary groups would be the class that owns capital, the class that owns means of production, and I would say the other class is the class of wage laborers, right? The people that have to exchange their ability to work for money and then use that money to buy the things needed to live, like food, shelter,
Okay,
water, whatever. And then I
so
would also say that there is a third class, usually what people mean when they refer to the middle class, of like small proprietors, small business owners. But I would still say that this doesn't really address my point at all.
and in the middle class, that's the class, that's our bone, of the economy. Is that
The
right?
backbone of the
The
economy. Yeah.
backbone. Correct.
Again, like I said, it depends on how you define middle class. If you're defining middle class by like income level, maybe,
Yeah.
right? But like I said, when I say this is the reason why like I would take like a Marxist, not necessarily that I'm a Marxist or a communist, but I would take the Marxist position on capitalism and how capitalism is organized, right? That I wouldn't focus on income levels. I would focus on one's relation to how things are produced within society. Are you a wage laborer? Are you a capital owner? Are you a small business owner? Are you self-employed? Are you employing others? Like that's how I would say, and I would say the backbone of the economy is wage labor and the wage laborers, or as Marx would call the proletariat.
So,
Um,
Fragile, in what state do you live by any chance?
what state?
Yes,
I live in Washington D.C.
in Washington, D.C. Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, if we compare, and that's exactly, why I'm kind of very passionate about it, because I came from both environments,
Hmm.
living in a very quote unquote capitalism where I grew up in a very wealthy country, and moving towards socialism and then communism at this point, because there is no elections, the economy totally controlled by the system, and blah blah blah. The point that we're trying, at least I'm pretty sure the Vega agree with me, that we're trying to make is the way that we're going in our society, in the American society, you know
Yeah,
because
I don't think we're tending towards socialism at all. In fact,
exactly as you said,
especially like
we used to say the
the
same thing.
huh?
In Venezuela, we used to say the same thing.
No, I mean, I would say that, like, I think we could actually observe a trend, like, the past 30, 40 years. The Republican Party, I think it's clear to say that they're not tending towards socialism at all. Right, I think that's fair to say. And then the Democratic Party, which has been America's ostensibly left-wing party, the past 30, 40 years, instead of moving towards a more populist, socialistic economic base, they've like significantly shifted towards what I would say is a form of neoliberalism. Now, still, I guess if you want to say to the left of Republicans, I could agree there, but they wouldn't be anywhere near socialism. The closest America had to a socialist leader would probably be FDR, even though I wouldn't call him a socialist either. I think the issue here is that you guys seem to be defining the dichotomy between socialism and capitalism as a private, like autonomous private control over the economy, and then socialism as like greater government influence, which is a dichotomy that I would reject.
Okay,
My very Go
Fragile.
ahead.
Since you brought that up, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to give the word to Freedom because I think Freedom wants to
All right.
say something. I just want to read this real quick per the Pew Research Center. Okay, in 2019, nearly 2/3 of Democrats and Democratic leaners, 65%, had a positive view of socialism. Today, a smaller majority of Democrats, 57%, say they have a positive impression of socialism. Go ahead, Freedom. You want to say something?
Yeah, if you look at a lot of the more uh, uh, Democrat-led states like California, I'm gonna botch the article title. It's CCP something or well, it's not CCP. I'm sorry, I'm gonna botch it. But basically, what it did was it took away a lot of the rights for the individual to do gig work and be a 1099 subcontractor and run your own business, and kind of incentivized. It caused a lot of industry to pull out because I mean I've been in business for myself for 20 years, and I subcontract pretty much the majority of my workforce. So I kind of employ them, and really, whenever you're self-employed and you do different work, and you're not working for someone else, but you're still working for yourself. You, you you get these tax breaks, and you get these ways in order to stay alive in the process, and it's actually a better system. But every time that I've done the math on, okay, should I switch to a W-2, offer this, offer that, every single time that I do it, it's less take home money for the person that's working for me, and it's often somewhere between 30 and 40%. Um, and California, there's a few other states that are starting to lean towards this right now, and it's really pushing people away from the quote unquote American dream. I don't.
Right.
I'm strongly against socialism in the fact that I don't feel it's cool, and I don't care. I am not above sweeping the floor. I'm not above doing the paperwork. I'm not above getting my hands dirty or at my desk or calling the shots or whatever it is. Just for me, it's about getting the job done and being effective. But whenever you have people that are lazy, and you have three people that are working, and you have one person that's outworking two other people, shouldn't they be rewarded more than the other two people because they're the ones that are deciding not to work as hard? I just, I'm not against feeding the homeless. I'm not against welfare in the sense of
Yeah.
helping people out, but I
Yeah.
am against whenever you have, well, we'll just boil it down to two. You have one person who's really giving it their best. And I'm not talking about like where they're, like they're tiring themselves out, they're burning the candle at both ends and they're a workaholic, but I'm also talking about they're doing a better job at the other. What motivation do we have if both people are going to be paid the exact same no matter what at the end of the day? That's really that's what I have a really big problem with as far as the
Hmm.
how the wealth gets distributed, because I feel like you should work for it and you should earn it. And yeah, are people treated unfairly and should they earn more? I absolutely agree with that. But we have the option to switch careers. If you don't want to work at McDonald's and flip burgers and you want to start a landscaping business, or you want to start another business doing something completely separate, you have that option to go out and rise yourself out of the situation that you're in. I just believe it comes with it goes down to the individual than having a sea of
That goes
people
back,
with,
freedom, to what I
yeah,
said earlier about having that opportunity.
An
In
incentive.
right.
capitalism, you have that opportunity, where in socialism, you don't, much less communism. Lou, you wanted to add something to that?
Yes, an incentive. Freedom, you said something very important. You will be shocked to hear that you know how many years of schooling takes to become a doctor, is that right? And here in the United States, I mean, it's a very well paid profession, even though you have to pay a lot of for insurance and all that. But in Venezuela, I mean, I hope you're sitting, but a doctor, just a doctor with 10, and somebody can correct me, whoever is in there, 10 years of experience or whatever, makes $200 a month.
Mm,
Are you okay with that?
no.
I mean, that's unheard of. $200, one, and this person, because I know I have friends of mine who are doctors, and they have fled the country to Chile or to other country with better opportunity where they can make $3,000. I mean, or even more than that, and even to America. Come on, and the same. How can that be in a country that used to be, and again, just like us, with so many opportunities, and there were so many professionals, because we were very proud of our education, and all of a sudden this system does not appreciate education. Some right now as we speak, there are some schools where parents have to take their own the children have to take their own desk to school because there are not desk in school. So I mean, stuff like that,
And
a
don't
little bit
patients
within
also have to bring their own healthcare kits or materials and stuff?
everything. everything. And that's the kind of thing that, oh my God, it breaks my heart. And again, it goes back, and I don't know if you two are kind of familiar with what's going on in the waters. And yeah, we feel, compassion, and we kind of understand the situation. But this, because of the bad administration of, this government, I mean, it is affecting us, believe it or not. In certain, you can see Vegas videos, I mean, or whatever, it's exposed in Fox, because you won't see in any other outlet. But yes, it's it little by little, it just takes out, rips people's heart, and that takes that pride of, because there's no incentive. uh People just don't
But
don't
it
feel like doing
makes it collapse, though, right? Because if you remember, Chavez had a similar talking point to what Fragile is saying, that these socialist Democrats, that they're not 100% socialist, because they still want to maintain a capitalist economy.
No,
You remember that Chavez, when he was campaigning, he said, "I love business, I love corporations. I'm going to work with them. I'm going to make them stronger than before." Remember, he used to say that.
yep, yep.
And what happened? It collapsed under his policies. So, Fragile, do you understand where I'm coming from with this? That the talking point, it's like you said, no, it's not 100% socialist. It's, we're going to work with everybody. We're going to make the system work perfectly around under the socialist umbrella talking point. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is
My point is,
the minute I sense there's a certain socialist agenda, a huge red flags goes up for me. And that's what
there,
I'm
there
trying
are
to talk about here. But go ahead.
there are a few points I want to respond to. Right, first, I mean, this goes because all three of you guys talk consecutively, so there's something I want to say in response to
Go
all
ahead.
three
You
of
have the
you.
word.
So first, I would say, in the poll that you had brought up from Pew Research regarding the percentage of Democrats that call themselves or said that they're like sympathetic towards socialism. I In that case, I would really question what they mean by socialism, right? Because like I said, when I say socialism, or when I first came on the live and I said I'm sympathetic to the socialist cause, right? Again, by socialism, I've always meant a system in which society's means of production are under the ownership of like collective bodies or worker controlled bodies. And I would
That's the
say,
correct definition of
yeah,
socialism. That's
so,
correct.
so I would say that like if you're advocating for a capitalist economy, well, then you cannot be socialist. If your position is we're going to make the corporation stronger, we're going to try to reorganize the corporations along more social lines, like that just wouldn't be socialist. Now, again, I've never denied a critique of, like I said, Chavez or Maduro's policies, but my point is just by the definition of socialism, a society in which the means of production are now collective property, it just weren't social, just wasn't socialist. And the thing I think is a lot of liberals, like you guys, would define, well, when they think of socialism, right? And you could probably say this is because of like Bernie Sanders. They think of like Norway, they think of Sweden, they think of the
Wait,
Nordic
we're not
model.
liberals, by the way. I'm not sure why
No,
you
no,
said
I
you
understand. I
guys.
understand.
Oh,
I'm not saying you guys are liberals. I'm just saying you guys would have the same position as liberals on what countries you would call socialist, right? Like I said, primarily like the Nordic, Scandinavian countries. I would say that isn't socialist. That would only be my point.
no,
Even
but
though I
I told
think,
you the same thing. I said I don't believe they are socialist 100%.
sure,
No,
sure,
no,
sure.
no.
I'm just saying that like I think when a lot of liberals say that, or Democratic voters say that they are supportive of socialism or sympathetic towards socialism, I think they're more so referring to like Nordic countries, something that I wouldn't call socialist at all. But then besides that, the next point, right, which Freedom had brought up, is regarding like compensation for work. Socialists and communists haven't advocated. I mean, I really don't know where the straw man came from. I've never advocated for equal wages for everyone. In fact, one of the early slogans used by the Soviet Union was from each according to their ability. I'm sorry, to each according. Sorry, from each according to their ability, to each according to their deed. Deed as in DEED. All right. The whole point of this being that the amount that you get paid is relative to the amount that you work, right? And even though I don't agree with, like, for example, Stalin's like economic policies, even his economic policies I think it was called like a piece rate system, where the amount that you would get paid was relative to your economic output. Um, right. So I don't think that socialists think that everyone should receive the same amount of compensation, even if one guy outworks other people. And then on Lou's point, um, what's it called? I would say that I think that again, the main issue that we're suffering from, and I really don't want to turn this into a semantic conversation, but the main issue that I see is that we're sort of defining capitalism as less government control and socialism as more government control. Where my point is that there is capitalism with significant government control, that in fact, historically speaking, the government has always been a tool used by capitalists to advance their interests. Right, one of the first capitalist industries to ever exist in the world was the British textile industry, and the reason why this textile industry became a world leader in just making textiles was because of the British government suppressing textile manufacturing in India, which was an industrial scale, wasn't done under a capitalist system. But India had previously had the largest textile sector, economic sector in the world. And British industry, with the backing of the British government, which was at the time colonizing India, right, was able to aid the growth and protection of a domestic British industry, right? And I would say that this is the case, for example, for a lot of the colonization that we would all agree was done by governments. Like it was the British government colonizing large parts of Africa, French government too, also parts of Asia, and also parts of like the Caribbean as well, right? The whole point is that like when the governments did this, they did these things, even though these are big government moves, they did so for the explicit purpose of expanding the capital owned by their domestic ruling classes, right? Their capitalist classes, right? Something in more recent memory, like the Iraq War, right? Obviously, that was done by the government. That was the U.S. government invading Iraq, right? But even then, that was done, I would say, to benefit at parts of the American capitalist class. It was the American reconstruction firms that took advantage of rebuilding the infrastructure that America destroyed, right? It was private weapons manufacturers, right, that received contracts from the United States government to create the weapons that America used to destroy Iraq. And then also when we occupied the country, America massively reformed their economy because Saddam Hussein had a largely nationalized socialistic economy. When America went in and occupied the country, they massively reformed it to allow a bunch of American and British, especially British and American companies to come in and take advantage of all the utilities and all the resources. Right. So the point that I would always stress is that just because a government is heavily involved in the economic decisions within a country or even within the global economy more broadly, I wouldn't say that means that you're socialist. In fact, I would say that very often means historically the state policies done in the interest of capital.
Okay, but you did say that Saddam did have a socialist country. Is that what
No,
you
that's
said?
wrong.
I would say he had a socialistic,
He was a
like he had
dictator.
a heavily nationalized economy where
Right.
large portions of the economy were under like the control of SOEs or
Right,
state-owned
very
enterprises.
socialist, but he was also a dictator, right?
Yeah, he was a dictator, absolutely.
Okay, so that's where my point is that it correlates socialism,
I would
communism.
say most dictators in the world are capitalists. What's it called? What's it? BDS, the king, the monarch in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a premier example of a dictatorship. They're capitalists, right? The Ayatollah in Iran. Iran's a capitalist country,
So,
right?
per what you're saying, most capitalist economies are dictators, but most socialists aren't.
No, 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 no. My
No,
point
I'm just
is,
clarifying what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. I'm saying that like there definitely have been like the countries that I would say have been socialist. A lot of them I would call them dictatorships, but I would also say a lot of capitalist countries have been dictatorships. Like I said, I would call Saddam a dictator, and I would say he ran a socialist, at least socialistic economy, right? I wouldn't point him as an example of socialism, but yeah, I would say he was a dictator. But then I would also say Iran that he was fighting against in the 1980s was also a dictatorship, but they were capitalist. I would also say that, a lot of my politics circles around Africa and African policies. Mobutu Sese Seko was one of the worst dictators that Africa ever had. He's a capitalist. Well, he was a capitalist. What's it called?
Okay.
Paul Kagame, one of the most well-known African leaders right now that I despise. Right? I don't know if I call him a dictator, but he does a lot of fucked up shit. And I would say that he's a capitalist as well. So my
Got
point
it.
is that like I don't think there's any unique correlation between capitalism or socialism and autocracy.
Okay, so you don't see the connection. Okay. John, welcome to the panel. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think this issue is missing a lot of other points. It's not about money making. It's not about what today's socialism is talking about. The history of it, it actually involves religion, friendship, and hardship, and worship, family values. The old socialism does not compare with the new one, and the same thing in communism. There are multiple ways to look at this, but actually visiting, seeing firsthand, it's more complicated to explain it. And why is that? Eastern Europe, which was mostly socialist and communist, those countries were at war forever against Asian countries, African countries, and so on. Let's not forget the Ottoman Empire that tried to conquer Europe and so on. And they united in a common cause. Now, I know firsthand in former socialist communist countries after World War II, on the Russian boot, people got together, they got married, they got an apartment. They worked for each other. Now, that doesn't mean it's a good thing because, of course, there is control. But that's what I'm trying to say is it's more complicated than what
But
is
John,
going on today.
do you
Because today,
think the new socialism or the new socialists that are coming are better than like you said, the old ones?
no, actually, I think it's the worst. I
Why?
think they try to profit from you, but not giving you anything back. They just want to earn from you. They want to enslave you, actually. Then
Enslave you how?
uh, uh, to use you for their own needs. Now, going back to the old socialism, they try to rule and make people comply, but they gave something back in return. I know firsthand millionaires in communist countries, pig farmers, and so on. They would not openly say it, different things. But I'm sorry, went the wrong way. I'm sorry. I know there were people that were not politicians that had a lot of money. But on the other hand, the system gave people a chance to own a house, to own a car, a very small business, which is not reported here. And it's puzzling. Now, on the other hand, if you talk against the government, of course, you get arrested.
Right. So you're saying that there's certainly more control over their people.
Yes, they had total control over the people, but in return, they gave something back. As right now in the new socialism that I see, they just want to make you go for them, vote for them, but they don't give you anything. They give you a few $1,000s. That's it. You're done. And then you
Okay.
have to look for a house,
Okay.
Can
a
I
roof
add
over
something
your
real
head.
quickly?
Fragile, go ahead. You want to respond?
Yeah, I would actually agree with what a lot of what John is saying. I mean, the former Eastern Bloc, the former Soviet Union, right? These are countries that I would say were socialist or even communist, right? Like I would agree there. And that is an aspect that a lot of people that lived in these regions acknowledge, especially today. That again, it is very true that there were a lot of issues surrounding authoritarianism, suppression of freedom of speech, right? And obviously, like he's not trying to say that that's good, but in the same time, like, as he said, these societies had these massive welfare states where they would help you actually build a family, right? They would help you, give you a house, right? They would give you, I think in the USSR, every worker had like 1 month paid vacation, right? Like they actually tried to reorganize the economy towards again elevating the workers as much as possible, which is why when a lot of these countries went back towards capitalism, now again they had more freedoms, right? They could criticize the government more openly, but all those social benefits that they got as a consequence of the communist system or the socialist system died off over time. And something else that John had brought up as well that I wish he went more into was the conflicts that Eastern Europe involved themselves in during the Cold War. Because you look at a lot of the movements that they were supporting, for instance, the MPLA in Angola, right, or Frelimo in Mozambique, or ZAPU in Zimbabwe. What a lot of these organizations were doing themselves, again, these are communists as well in other countries, right? That these people were fighting against colonial rule, right? Like in Angola and in Mozambique, they were fighting against the Portuguese that had colonized them, right? With the case of Zapu in Zimbabwe, they were fighting against the minority white rule government in Rhodesia. Hell, even in apartheid South Africa, one of the most prominent groups in fighting against apartheid was their Communist Party, right? So when you look at a lot of these movements, or how even like the Viet Cong in Vietnam, which I'm not even like the largest fan of, but the point is that they were, at least initially, the Viet Minh fought against French colonialism. They're the ones who freed their country from being a colony of France, and then afterwards it was the Viet Cong that helped free the country from essentially what was a puppet state installed by the U.S. and the French. And so the point is that like there was, again, despite the large amount of issues, and we could really go on for days, and I have no issue doing so, talking about the issues of these societies. The point is that like there was a genuine shift to try to reorganize economy towards benefiting the people of the world. And you saw that in their foreign policy when they were backing these movements, backing these struggles, trying to free themselves from oppressive systems, usually imposed by capitalist countries for the benefit of the capitalist class. So I do agree with a lot of what John said there, but
So, do you
I'll let
think that today the Democrats, the socialist Democrats that we have today, they are looking for the best interest of the country to fight against the evil capitalists?
no, because I would say the Democrat Party is still a capitalist party. I mean, when you look at like all the private capitalist donors that like fund the Democratic Party's campaigns, I think it would be weird to say. Now, again, some of them do call themselves socialists, like AOC, maybe Ilhan Omar. I don't know. But even if I want to call them socialists, my point is I don't think they're fighting against capitalism. Because the one thing you see that the reason why I would say a country like the USSR, again, this is not to say it was good. This is not like me praising it, but the reason why I would say a country like the USSR was socialist, but a country like Venezuela wasn't, is because the USSR had a different system that wasn't built on market exchange, that wasn't built on private ownership. It wasn't that they just regulated the private businesses. They got rid of the private businesses and tried to reorganize the economy. The Democrats don't wish to reorganize the economy. The primary interest, I would say, of the Democratic Party is the maintenance of American hegemony. America is currently the most powerful country in the world. It's the country that controls the global economy, and to an extent the global political system. I would say the Democrats' primary concern is maintaining American control over this system, which I'm trying to say is the problem of capitalism. The
Okay, so
issue
you're
is
saying, so you mentioned Venezuela again. So you're still saying that Venezuela was not a socialist country, correct?
no, they may have had socialist aspirations, but I wouldn't have said like Cuba. I would say was socialist.
Okay, Lou, do you agree with that? That Venezuela was never a socialist country under Chavez?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Do you agree with what Fragile is saying that Venezuela was never a socialist country under Chavez?
No, I mean, in fact, when he the political scenario that he painted and that he sold was democracy. He never, I mean, socialism was never part of his game. Little by little, that's when he started coming out with his policies, and that he started he started pretty much giving away, like I said up from the very beginning, giving away, and started with this I would say rhetoric, saying to people, you know what, capitalism, little by little he started saying capitalism is not good. We need to start sharing our resources. He meant oil and gold, whatever we have at that time.
What about production, Lucas? Fragile. When we were defining socialism, right? That it's a theory of social organization per Google, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Didn't Chavez at some point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I know you know more than this than I do. Didn't Chavez at some point took over the distribution of when it comes to the also production of goods for the community, like anything they needed for basic needs like food and any things like toilet paper and stuff like that. Didn't the government eventually take over certain factories also over there?
Correct. 100%.
He did, right? So he was in control of production. It's
Correct.
just that they mismanaged it and it collapsed, didn't it? And that's why he had to import at some point later on, right?
It's Yeah, and it's gonna sound like a joke, but there was a point that toilet paper was like, oh my god, was like water. You couldn't find toilet paper. You couldn't find. I mean, basic needs. It got
It
to
was
the
like
point.
gold.
It was gold. I mean, he pretty much. It got to the point that people was kissing the government's ass just to get basic stuff. That, I mean, it has never happened in Venezuela. But but going back to what you were saying, you were because the main idea of this point is to compare, what's going on right here in the United States. It's so funny that I heard our ex-governor. I don't know if you're familiarized with Christie. He's the
Cuomo,
ex-governor.
right?
No, no,
Oh,
no. Chris Christie. Chris Christie.
oh, Chris Christie. Oh no,
Yeah,
not him again.
yeah. And you know what's so funny? But you know what's so funny? He mentioned something about socialism, and he was talking about. I was watching a show right here in New Jersey, and he mentioned this situation that was going on in Venezuela, and he even said it because he, even though he has criticized Donald Trump in certain things, blah blah blah, he even said it, that, and he brought up the toilet paper and the economy at that time, in South America. And I was kind of wondering. I said, "Oh my God! I mean, Republicans are kind of smelling the coffee too, because even though right now we're comfortable, and yeah, we're dealing with two wars, and that we're dealing with a lot of issues here at home, the last thing that we're thinking is about, you know." becoming the main, like, people would have to beg the government just for basic things. But I have seen it myself. I have seen it right here in New Jersey and New York, with the whole situation. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? We're
Yeah.
supposed to.
It's a trend that's happening, and I want to ask this to Freedom. I'm going to read this real quick. This is per Newsweek. I believe I read this last week, but I'll read it again. And so, and I quote, "What we found was surprising. Our survey did find that socialism was viewed more favorably than capitalism among US college students.
Yes.
24% of respondents had a positive view of capitalism, compared to 32% who had a
Because
positive view of socialism." So, Freedom, what do you think this is? What's the deal with going against evil capitalism?
I mean, it's definitely wrapped in the narrative of mainstream media, and that's just what's been impounded that the system's not working, people aren't getting enough, the welfare that's out there right now still isn't enough, and I believe it's just been pounded. And I mean, I'm 40 now, and I had a different mindset. I worked really hard when I was 20 as well, but it's still like you're still not fully developed. So how can you fully understand some of these concepts, in general, until you actually experience it? And it's I
I'd
would be
like to
interested
say
to know
something about it.
where they pulled some of the polls from too.
Is this, you
Like
think, is this like pandering to like the victim mentality? Like, I think
it
I
is,
watched a viral
yeah.
video, I'm not sure if you saw it, of a college, I think graduated former college student girl, and she was crying like, "Oh, I got to work a regular job, or I'm working Monday through Friday or something like that, like 9 to 5. How can this be?" And she was crying like this sort of thing where everybody wants to just be rich quick and have the house and have the car just without putting all the effort in.
Yeah, it's the entitlement. It's the sense of entitlement, the sense of what were they debating? What, a couple of years ago, they wanted to shorten the full time status to 30 hours or do the work week to 4 days a week, and it's like, well, how do you balance that? I mean, yeah, it sounds great to be able to, like, if we could actually achieve it, but then okay, who's on what shift and who has to take what shift, and the only way to actually make that work is if there is some sort of balance, but how would you still be able to effectively hit production numbers, or you get things, how would you get stuff done, I guess, is
Yeah, and
really
it's like, I
what
think I
yeah.
had last month, or when I started doing the lives, I had a some people that were complaining about the wage and all that stuff. And then look, I get that there could be some form of adjustment to that, but like you said, if you're flipping burgers in McDonald's, you have the opportunity to, you can start a business, or maybe go get educated in a field to get a better position, or just apply somewhere else and seek other opportunities. But there's this notion where automatically you have to make like 25, $30 per hour no matter what. And I feel like it's pandering to that victim mentality, that everybody should be equal regardless.
Yeah, but then, so is it also teaching our younger, that whenever you're 20, 21 years old, you're going to have the same life experience and the same knowledge that someone who's in their 50s or 60s or elders are going to have? I mean, it's like, it's taking away the respect from that too. It's like you have to work your way up before you do it. I used to promote shows back in the day, and it took, I managed an artist in Orlando, and it took several, I'd say probably like 6 months to a year of proving myself at smaller venues that I could pack them out before I could get contracts with the Hard Rock and the House of Blues. So it's kind of like
I would
you
like
have
to
to
say
build,
something
you have to
about it.
build up to it.
Okay, go ahead, John, and then I'm going to give the word to our new guest here. Go ahead, John.
Yes, so we're talking about the old socialism and new socialism. Old socialism had borders closed, and they did take care of their own people. How is it happening today? How many homeless do you have in the USA? Vets with problems and so on. Um, that did not happen where I traveled, as far as I've seen in the former socialist communist countries. They always had a bed in the hospital. They always had a roof over their heads. Nobody got in or out without being vet checked and so on. This is a huge difference. How does the new socialism in the US that they're trying to make now, we're talking about Venezuela. Venezuela, it's a new socialist country. It's not the old socialist country. There are different rules. I don't know how much. I can't say that I know about it so much. It's just what the media says so. So I would like to travel there. I would like to see it myself.
Oh, well, you
Please do
should.
so.
You'll be very
You
surprised.
old, what do you mean old socialism and new socialism? What are
Okay,
you
I
talking
want to
about?
give the word to Yoel. Welcome to the panel. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mari. I'm the wife. I'm Mari.
Oh, Mary. Okay, welcome.
Hi. This is an interesting conversation. I have a different perspective because we're from Cuba. So we lived in a
Welcome
socialist
to the
country.
club.
We lived in a socialist country. I also studied, my entire educational background is political theory. So I studied socialism and I studied capitalism, free market, libertarianism, every philosophy under the book. And John, I don't know what you're talking about with new socialism and old socialism. There is no new socialism or old socialism. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
And
the new socialism have no borders, and you do whatever you want without schooling, without anything that you actually should care for to grow in a community.
So, John, what
It's
you're
a
saying is because Mary, I believe what Mary's coming from is that from what she studied, she is looking at what's by the book. What you're saying, John, it's not necessarily following what's by the book. Is that what you mean?
Exactly, it's a difference. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so Mary, I think what he's saying
I
is,
don't even know how to respond to that. What
yeah.
are
So
you talking
it's
about? Anarchy? A communal society under anarchy where you don't have to go to, there's no rules, there's no per se quote unquote rules. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I didn't say that. I said the old socialism is more complicated. It involves religion. It involves the history of the country, wars that the country was in, occupations, and so on. It's not as easy as it's in the USA when they say, "Oh, I'm socialist right now because I just went to college."
Okay. um i, I don't I don't know, but to answer to say that there's no homeless people in countries like ours is false. There are homeless people. They
Yes,
might not
today.
be
I'm
out
just
on the
talking about
open.
the old socialism that they provide housing for the new married ones, two
That by
bedrooms, one
definition is
place.
social. Well, that is by definition a
That's
socialist program under
I'm talking about
socialism.
Eastern Europe. I don't know about the rest of the world. I'm talking about Eastern Europe, the countries that I traveled through and I've seen, and the school was provided free, and even people that got out of jail had two choices of jobs. They they had to choose one of the two because if not, they would go back to jail because it was considered black market that they dealt in.
So are you advocating for that kind of system?
No, I'm not saying I'm advocate. No,
No,
what
it's a
I'm trying
question,
to
genuine
say
question. I'm
is
just asking you.
no. What I'm trying to say is the socialism that it's happening today is different than the one before. It's worse than than the one before, and people don't actually understand what socialism is. There is, of course, there is the control of the population, but
That
in the past, what I'm trying to say, in the past, at least they tried to take care of their own people. There was no open borders, there was no migration, there was no nothing. It was
it's more of a
everybody,
nationalistic socialism.
yeah, in a way, yes.
Yeah, Cuba has that. It's a nationalistic socialism.
Yeah.
But no. I think most kids nowadays, the Gen Z that are running around saying horrible things about capitalism, they do not know what capitalism means, first of all, and second of all, they do not understand socialism. They don't understand this philosophy at all.
Correct. Correct.
At all. Because
And Mary, what do you think we're seeing this trend? I'm not sure if you
we're
were here when I read the stats of college students seeing capitalism in a positive light, and it's like an uptrend now. It's popular to say that.
you mean socialism?
Yeah, socialism. Why do you think college students are viewing socialism positively
Because I think
lately?
because I think there's legitimate concerns, right? There are everyone's complaining about things that are legitimate, you know, the rising prices, the inflation, the wars, the so on and so forth, no? Those are legitimate concerns. Now, they view, because we live in a quote unquote capitalist nation, right? Which you and I and many people probably here know that we do not live in a capitalist country, let's say, right? They blame the capitalist system in all of the problems we see today. Now, I view it as actually, no, it's because of the government, because of the size and scope of the government. That's why we have the problems that we have today. It's not because of the lack of government, in my opinion, no? And then, so that's why they blame capitalism, and that's why they have these buzzwords like I want to be a socialist, which really they don't want to
When
be
you say government, which government are you talking about?
government in general. Philosophically speaking, I think the bigger the government, the hungrier the people in any system, including the American one. And the size and scope of the American government has tripled, quadrupled, I mean, exponentially grown in the past 50 years. No?
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why don't all these migrants go through USA to Canada?
I don't know. I can't because Canada have stricter borders. I don't know.
No, they don't. That's the truth. I'm going to tell you why.
They're
Because they're
socialist.
called here. They are called here.
I think it's geographics also play a big part in that. Geography. And there's also a large diaspora in the United States
No,
of
no, I don't think
immigrants.
so. I think the USA is the land of the freedom and of the dreams of people from around the world. There are people that wait for 5 to 10 years to get a legal visa to come in, but everybody comes in through
Well,
Texas.
I think Canada has a large migration to immigrant population as well.
Why they don't go there then?
You can't ask me that. I didn't go there. I came here.
Well, I'm trying to be fair. I'm not trying to be rude, and I do apologize if my
No, not
question,
at all.
you know,
I think
I,
it's much easier to enter the United States than it is to enter Canada.
they can
Geographically
travel there.
speaking,
We'll
Well,
give them buses, trains, airplanes, whatever they want
I
to
guess what
do.
John means is that I get what you're saying, Mary, that the Canadians do take immigrants, but what John means is that usually, at least from what I've seen, the Canadians are taking more the immigrants that come via visa, right? He means the migrants are crossing the border. How come they just don't continue when they get to New York, just continue the way to Canada from there?
and there's a large varying factors. I told you, there's a large diaspora in here, in this country already. So you have family that's already here. Excuse me, you have communities that are already here. You know what I mean? So like, for instance, I
Well,
can only speak
I'm
about my
sorry.
community, the
I
Cubans.
don't agree
Large,
with it.
large
I'm
percentage
sorry.
of Cubans are
Hold on,
in.
let her finish, John. Go ahead, Mary.
No. I'm just saying, like, I can only speak for myself and my community. Like, the large part of the Cuban community, of course, is in Miami. So where are you going to go? You're going to go to Miami because you have your community there. You can get a job easier. You have family, you have support there, and you don't really have that, and you don't see that in Canada.
I'm not sure if
Cuban,
this is where John
Cuban
is
people,
going. Go ahead, John.
we're not talking about Cubans only. I have Cuban friends.
That's why I said an
We're not talking
example.
about Cubans only. We're talking about children that are sent here without parents. And don't tell me, please, that a parent would send their child across 6, 7, 10, whatever countries on their own. Those kids are stolen. There is no way on this
But in
planet.
order, but in order to go to Canada, you have to go through United
No,
States.
I'm talking about migration in general. I'm not talking about Canada right now. I'm talking about the people that come from the southern border with kids, 10,000 or more, that are actually missing with no parents. They're sending their children over with no parents. Those children are stolen. I'm sorry to say it. It is the truth. No parent will send a child with a stranger to some 10 countries away, or whatever the number it is. This doesn't make any sense. I understand what you're saying about Cuba. I totally agree with it. Like I said, I have Cuban friends.
I think,
But
John, I think what Mary meant to say is exactly what were you referring to when you said that? How come your question was, why don't they continue into Canada?
but it's not so simple because it's more complicated. She mentioned that she has connections, Florida, Cuba, and so on.
I
I
was just
understand
using
that.
us
I'm
as an
trying to say
example.
is
There's other.
this migration is more complicated than just people going over.
Okay, but I'm saying that I'm using my community as an example for other communities. There's also a large diaspora of many other nationalities in this country, right?
Okay, I
So
understand that. I agree with you. But how come children with no parents
because
show
this
up
is
at
the
the
first
border?
country north of where they are that gives them the opportunity to,
I
um,
understand and I agree with you. But minors show up at the border with no parents, no guardians. How
okay, so
can you
what's your
explain that?
argument?
So I guess, John, what is your main point when you say that? Like, we get what you're saying that yes, they are here, but what's your
I
point?
don't
Like,
want to
what's
say
your?
the I don't want to say the
I
name,
know where he's going with this.
the word. I don't want to
Okay,
be.
I see where you're going with it. It's something to do with trafficking. I get it. We don't want to say the entire word for the algorithm.
Okay,
Yeah,
Freedom, do you
but
want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Hold on,
there.
John. Let's give the word to Freedom, and then I got another guest here. Go ahead, Freedom.
Yeah, there was something recently in Congress too. I don't remember which month it was, but there's I think several 100,000 children that are unaccounted for that had crossed over. I guess what John's
Seven
alluding to
hundred
is that
thousand.
several 100,000, like
Oh,
yeah,
okay, several
200,000, like
hundred. Okay.
yeah.
yeah, several 100,000. Like I think the number was 200,000, and the answer wasn't very clear back. They were being grilled like, "What's going on with this? What's going on with this?" You know. So yeah, clearly there's probably other layers that we're not able to see right in the forefront as to what's going on with this with what's going down at the border. And I know that's not the exact topic of today, but um, I see where he's going with that point too. That there's other layers that are going on that are incentivizing or creating the like why are people not going to Canada? I read something else that Canada was also refusing a lot of other asylum seekers from the Ukraine pretty recently too.
Is this
So I think
related
that
to the
they've
socialism that
I'm not following the argument. Like, what does S trafficking have to do with?
with the socialism? Correct.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what are we talking about?
yeah,
Well,
yeah, that's where
just
that was. But
because
I'm going.
socialism
Hold
promotes
on.
this,
Hold on.
that's
Hold
not.
on. Hold on, John. Freedom was
Yeah.
finishing. Freedom, can you answer that?
Yeah, I think that I think it's a construct. Honestly, the incentive the way I see it at least is that there's an incentive right now to be able to bring that in because it's going to be a lot easier to create more dissemination, create more rebellion, create more control on on everybody else because of all the chaos that's being created because they're going to have to implement some sort of system to figure out how to solve the problem. It's like
Okay,
yeah, sorry,
And
I
that
know
system
I'm
is
talking in
I
called
circles
just
right
think
now, but
that
I'm being
socialism.
careful what words I use
I
too.
just
So
think that S
Okay,
trafficking.
Mary, go ahead.
I just think that S trafficking is on there's a list of problems happening on the border. I don't think it's the top of national security concerns, to be honest with you. I'm more concerned about people from other countries that have philosophies that are much different coming in, including, let me tell you, Cubans from the Communist Party coming in here, just because I know, But like, people from the Middle East, people from all over the world that have a greater national security threat to this country than the children problem
So,
all over.
Mary, you're saying that a big concern for you is, and you specifically mentioned Cubans that support the communism agenda
Oh
are
yeah.
coming here.
Oh my gosh, a ton. There's people that we saw in Cuba that were communist leaders that are now in Miami. And that I'm just using that as an example because I know it.
No,
Okay.
look, Mary, I'm not sure if you heard this, but Lou and I we're both Venezuelan Americans.
Ah, yeah.
So
Okay.
so we were echoing that message with Venezuelan
Okay.
people that are coming that supported
Yeah.
Chavez communist government.
Of
You
course,
know where
but
I'm going. The same thing you're saying.
the same thing is happening. I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory. There are people that I literally saw that were the vice president of the Communist Party in Cuba that are here in Miami. It's happening. Um, but if you guys didn't know this, Venezuela was caught maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago giving fake passports to other nationals that were not Venezuelan, and they would come to the border and they would say that they're Venezuelan, they're not Venezuelan, and they would get in through asylum.
And that's probably still happening
Oh,
today, even with other
100%.
countries. Yeah.
100% it's happening because
Yeah.
it's very easy for somebody, let's say, I'm just putting an example, let's say from the Middle East to learn a few words in Spanish. And they look Cuban or they look Venezuelan or they look South American, and they get the passport and they cross because they don't even ask you guys, I have many friends who have crossed the border in the past year. They do not ask them anything, nothing. They say, where are you from? And that's it. That's it. And then they let you go.
Yeah, I've actually
I
interviewed some
totally,
migrants. I've
I
actually
totally agree
interviewed a
with
couple of migrants here on my live stream where they told me that it is very easy to get through South and Central America, even if you have no ID.
Oh,
You
they
just pay a couple
do.
of bucks and you get through. But
No,
Mary,
it's true.
before I give the word to Maga, Mary, what do you say then to Hispanics that go and say, you're being a race traitor for what you're saying right now. You're going against your people, or even some Americans that don't understand
Well,
the danger of this situation. What do you say to those
white Americans
as
telling
a
me how
Cuban American?
white Americans telling me how to think and how to act and how I should vote and how I should feel and how I should be is white supremacist to me, telling me how I should think and how I should act and I should feel. But I don't see the correlation between saying things that are obviously happening on the border and being a traitor to my people. I have no allegiance to my people. I'm an individual. I'm an individual human being. Just because I happen to be Cuban doesn't mean all Cubans think alike. All Cubans are the same, or this one big monolith. Especially Latinos, they treat us like as if we're all one big thing. You and me, you're Venezuelan, so we have something in common in politics. But apart from that, in the language, I don't have anything in common with you. I don't. That's the truth. I don't have anything in
I
common with a
totally
Mexican. I don't
agree
have
with
anything
you.
in common with an Argentinian, except for a language. So they treat us all as if we're one big group, and that's not true. I'm an individual within a group.
Yeah, which is ironic is that they say that the opposite side, meaning the Republicans, I'm not saying that you are, but usually the left uses this talking point where saying that, we are the racist, we are the ones that use stereotypes, yet they use a stereotype on us all the time. And I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
about
Oh yeah.
Hispanics in general,
No, yeah. They think that we're all one big person.
that we're supposed to think alike and follow the same train of
But
thought,
but
which
you
is
notice how
pretty
they
racist to
never
me.
you notice how they never do that to I hate to say white Americans, but they never do that to white Americans because they'll never bat an eye when a white American is Republican, right? That's okay, you can be Republican, but they'll never bat an eye when a white American is a liberal. They'll never bat an eye. It's normal. But we can't be the same thing.
That is correct. That is correct. I mean, on my channel, I've gotten so many attacks because I say I'm a Republican and I'm Venezuelan American and I'm a race traitor. I'm going against my people.
What
It's just
people? What people are you against? I just don't get it. What people? You are an individual human being. You don't have allegiance to anybody or anything.
Mary, I'm sorry. Let me tell you, I'm pretty. I kind of identify with Viga because what he meant is like because we both we kind of have been to a certain point Americanized, and we understand the capitalism system, and when we kind of make a statement, and especially about the immigration topic and all that, immediately they think that we became white, or we're this, or we're that, and what they don't understand is that yes, we are willing to help you, we're willing to do to go beyond outreach, but we gotta follow the law, and that's the part that they don't understand.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm not, I'm certainly understand why people cross borders. I do understand why a majority of the, because a lot of Americans don't understand that there is no line for people. You know, they like to say get in line, but there's no line. You guys
Yeah,
know
no, there's
this.
not.
There's no line for
And
people to
yeah,
apply for,
it's
right?
not, it's not even their fault at this point.
No, no, no. So they don't. I mean, if you're from a poor country with nobody, no family, you don't have a high education to get a work visa, right? Or a student visa or a family visa. There is no line for you. So I certainly
Mhm.
understand why people cross, and so that's not my debate. But you can't be able to cross and not know who you are. You know, they should be able to do background checks on people.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
But
Lo mínimo.
I agree with that, and we talk about immigration here on this platform a lot. I want to give the word to Maga now. It's been waiting for a while there, he or
Sorry,
she.
Maya.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Maga. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, I've been listening to this hard topic, and we heard about people acknowledging their knowledge on capitalism, on geography, on and on nativism. Right? We have Cubans. We have the gentleman here. I'm not sure from where. We have Venezuelans, and here I am, a Mexican American. A Mexican American that understands the civil rights movements that started on the 40s with the brown berets, which aligned with the Black Panthers. And 20 years or 2 decades of nasty segregation, even to the 70s, where the biggest of all communities was the Mexican American, that we could not go into a restaurant because animals and Mexicans were not allowed. Which that establishment, which is the generation, the baby boomer generation, uh, make sure that you all were called Mexicans, and they did it and repeated it so much until it created a wedge with you guys till the point where you guys have to say, I'm not Mexican, I'm a Cuban or a Venezuelan, I'm a Colombian. Me, from a Mexican descendants, I said, fair is fair, you know. Uh, but if we're looking for the rule of law, the problem at the border is not a Mexican problem. If we are such sophisticated on technology, if we are the fathers and the kings of exceptionalism and capitalism, and it seems that not only on the panel but around the world, around the country, we all are amazing capitalists. We should, and then we own Silicon Valley. We should find a way. We made it to the moon. We should find a way that do not throw a middle person, aka Mexico, into the conversation, because out of 340 million Americans, it's very easy to pinpoint or finger point to Mexico as a rooter or a nesting of what you call caravans of illegal immigrants. We hear here John. We listen to John making a statement that, I'm sorry to say, quote, I quote, he says, I'm sorry to say it, but these kids are stolen kids. So that these kids, every kid coming over the border is a stolen kid. And then we heard here that Congress, the most and the least productive Congress in the history of the United States of America, besides besides the Hoover Congress back in those days, where they only legislated 21 laws. This Congress ended up with 22, we're talking about Congresses that should be legislating over 500 bills per session per year. Where I'm going with this, I also heard that someone here says, well, I recently heard in Congress that about 200,000, you understood 700,000, but he then reaffirmed into 200,000. So I have to put to question who out of Congress brought up those numbers, because whoever follows legislative sessions, we can see that many of Congress on control, which is the Republican Party, they've been pulling data from very bogus even websites that they have been called out. So let's make sure that the 200,000, let's remember when we bring data to this kind of lives where people have a microphone and an account, we have to be held accountable. You bring a number and data, you have the burden to prove that, especially when we're mentioning hundreds of thousands of human beings.
I
So
agree, Maga, and I do that. I do that a lot here. When someone brings certain data, I actually look it up. I didn't look it up specifically because it wasn't the main point of what he was talking, and we moved up along quickly.
so
But I believe he said several thousand, though. I wasn't sure
no,
if he said 200.
and then you continue your point on that, and then he did follow up on the 200,000. But let me land the plane because I know it's limited time. The point that I'm trying to make is, if we are the kings of capitalism and we are the kings of Silicon Valley, aka Facebook, TikTok, and all these platforms, social platforms, we are the kings of advertising. We have to take the flag out of our eyes and just also, if we're gonna be making theories, how do we reach out South America, Central America, to make sure these caravans are coming over here? Why are they coming? What are they hearing over there? And where those originates? Because at what point are we accountable to some part of this issue? And second of all is, these people are coming here for a better life, quote to quote, right? And if it's so, and we need that labor force, because at the end of once they're here, we put them to work. We put them to work for minimum wage, and some, I think, they will get to our level of economics, financial status. However, on the middle, there's a country called Mexico. And if we can only have an index finger to point everybody except us, we have to question our moral position as well. We have to have a self-criticism.
So,
I
John,
yield the mic.
excuse me, Maga. So, are
Yes.
you saying that? I know you said you, but I'm guessing you mean like a general statement that
Yes.
most people are blaming Mexico for letting them come
Or South
through. Is that what you
America,
mean?
or South
No, no,
America, or the
no,
parents
no.
that
So
quote to quote, I will
Hold on,
question.
John. Let him answer. Go ahead,
I'm a
Maga.
father. I'm a father, and I'm a Latin American father, and I know more than John how the linkage between myself and my kids. I don't know how John from his culture treats his linkage to his kids, but Latin America doesn't. A father will not let go their kids
I
unless
think you're
the biggest
Hold on, John.
sacrifice
Hold
of
on. Let him
all,
finish. Let him finish. Go
the
ahead,
biggest
Maga.
sacrifice of all, that's one. And among the people, those caravans, there are ladies and more ladies and more ladies that they are mothers, and they will protect those kids along the way to the best of their abilities. And with among them, if there's still a stolen kids, they will let the at least in Mexico, the police know that those kids are fatherless or have no kids, or they found out as a fact that those are stolen kids. They drive used through Mexico 4,500 miles through about 15 states. So, and they deal with a lot of police and immigration services, plus human rights services. those 200 kids, aka, or whatever kids, on this case John says that they're stolen, they don't get pinpoint within the travesty from Central America or Mexico. We have to we got to be very careful here.
Okay,
We're
Maga.
talking
So
about child.
just there was a lot of things that you
Yes,
shared there, but
yes,
I
sir.
believe is your main point stating that you don't particularly believe that there's a lot of sea trafficking going on. Is that what you're trying to say? Because
No, no.
parents
What
wouldn't
I'm
let them
no
go
what
alone?
I'm no what I'm trying to say is that within this love for our patriotism, we are finger pointing all over the place, and but we are on the same token. We call ourselves the magnificents and the kings of capitalism, which that creates platforms like this, and we are the king of advertising. And advertising is a tool on that side of the continent, on the south. Who and how that advertisement about the open borders and the vouchers and the housing and the shelter and the cars and the financing, yes, because on who's doing it, how are they organizing so much people? If they're coming from a broken society, suddenly they organize such a well to travel 10,000 miles walking.
Well,
Who's
Maga, I can tell
financing
you,
that?
I'm a Venezuelan American, as you already
Yes,
know. There, a lot of them are not well organized. They go through a lot of hurdles to come here. And not that I'm excusing the behavior, I'm just saying that it's not like a very comfortable, well organized ride.
and
And I
then
can tell
we
you
should
because I have mutuals that have gone through that. Not that I'm friends with them, but I have
really.
mutuals that have heard stories. And I've
I know.
even interviewed migrants on my channel here
I I
during these
have I
live
have
streams.
I have witnessed it. I have witnessed your guest, and it's pretty touching. And as you can, I'm pretty sure you have learned that this is people that they cannot pinpoint those 200,000 stolen kids, right?
Well,
Because on
I
the few
wasn't talking
interviews
about
that
the
I
kids
saw
in
you,
particular. I was just replying to what you said about that they come organized in a certain like really organized fashion. I'm sure some are, and perhaps there could be some form of thing going on behind the scenes that we really don't know. But some are not organized. We had a migrant that came here, and she said that she just followed the crowd. She had no money. Now, could she be lying? She could be, but based on that, what she was sharing, it didn't seem like someone told her to come here or like she was paid to come here,
I mean,
so just to reply to what you said, that
yes.
who is behind this kind of thing.
And on Mexico through the states having some mutuals too, and it's one of the instructions. You don't say a word. You don't say a word, but among those caravans, there's people from these countries in South America and Central America that are leading those caravans, and
Okay,
they
okay,
May I
hold on, because you
respond?
brought up John, so I want to be fair and let John
yes,
reply so then we can go back
yes,
to the topic. Go ahead, John, if you can please reply briefly.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I didn't say those children were Mexicans. I
no,
said they're from all over the world.
right.
And I don't mean just South America. That means all over the world. I
And I'm gonna reply
thought,
real quick.
let me
I
let me
have to say
finish,
it because
please.
I have vested interest.
Let,
I
let
being on the two countries, John. Real quick, I'm gonna clarify this to you. Prior, they sit for months, and through the Trump era, some of them they sat for years,
Okay,
and
children
they're
without
dealing with
parents. You're talking about children.
human right
You are
organizations, and the
talking about
Mexican
just
authorities,
children
brother.
with no parents, correct?
Correct, sir. The
So
ones, the ones as
how do they
the ones that
travel? How do they eat? What roof they have under their heads traveling through two, three, 10 countries?
again, I will try to explain this from the best of my knowledge as a Latin
Okay.
American. It not many of them, whether they come, they are placed on some kind of custody to friends and relatives because the parents cannot afford the entire
So
expense
you're
of the
telling
travel.
me You are telling me that a custody is given to an adult for 10 to 20 children that were caught,
Oh well,
and this
that
is a
that you said
fact,
that I
by the
never said
border,
20
and
children.
they can't. Let me
I did
finish.
not say.
Well, that's what you said. They give it to somebody.
But not 10, 20. I never said mention an amount for one
It
person.
doesn't. Listen, it doesn't matter the number. It's giving to another person that
Right.
it's not their parent or guardian. It's
Okay,
a
just because we're bringing up this number a lot, I want to verify to be fair. Maga did ask for that. So I have per the Daily Signal here, okay, and that's thank you, Freedom, for sharing that information, the source. This article was from August 4th, 2023, so a few months ago. The Biden administration lost contact with 85,000 children, okay, and that's the title of it. Let me see here. Okay, and then per Newsweek, another one. Under Joe Biden, 85,000 undocumented children gone missing. So just two sources right there. You guys can Google it. So the number is 85,000. Again, that's per August. Let me see here.
and that's the missing number
Yeah.
only,
So
not the caught.
Congressman Chris Smith is preparing to introduce legislation that will require the federal government to locate the 85,000 migrant children it has lost contact with within the United States. Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
Maga, if you
Maga.
want to reply, or John.
I'm sorry, Maga. I have no idea what you're talking about. These are not facts. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're asking me.
No,
It doesn't make any sense.
no, and I'm apologize for wasting your time, and I'm apologize for not understanding or putting attention what the platform and from the angle that you were looking at this. And actually, I just wanted to. I decided to ask for a opportunity to come in and say and speak from the Mexican American angle, having access to the other side of the border and understanding the other side and understanding what those people waiting over there, what they have gone through, what how they think, how they got here, and a bit different reality than a Newsweek magazine, or meaning a third party, a direct contact, understanding how the understand a person that lives by that lives and born by the border, a considered a border boy, a pretty much a border kid, and understanding how the border used to have gates of entrance for asylums, and I saw those gates that used to be open gates for asylum seekers being welded, being blocked with steel plates to avoid a right that asylum seekers had under the
Let me
Constitution.
reply to you.
So,
Let me reply to you. I
the
understand what
stress.
you're saying.
Let me finish. The stress
Yeah.
that in Mexico side, the cities are going through due to Title 42 X, Y, and Z, because these people are not wanting to stay. They don't. They come through Mexico as a pathway, but they don't want to stay. However, they're coming to seek asylum here, and the shelter it was forced into Mexico to take on the burden over there, and and it's a topic where I have witnessed and deal with many incendiary rhetoric about the border, which it's a self-inflicted wound that we did, because if it comes down to resources and sheltering, how can a third world country as Mexico, which is not sending no more rapists and criminals because Mexicans don't
Uh-oh.
want to come to us, how come we're forcing a third world country to bring shelter to the people that
Okay,
it's a
let me
burden over here.
reply to you.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I'm going to
All
be
right,
very fair.
John, briefly reply because I do want to go back to the topic and I do have a
Yes.
question to
It
Maga
is
related
about
to the
the
topic, but go ahead,
capitalism
John,
thing.
briefly, please.
Yes. Basically, the border is not against Mexico. Okay, it has nothing to do with it. The problem that I'm having is Mexico actually does not vent any people that go through their country, through your country, that comes to USA. You can't tell me that they vent those people coming in because it's not true. Nobody's vented. Because if that would be true, then that would be reported to the USA, and then they will deal with that situation. Now, on the other hand, I can tell you I know many Mexicans, and I have great appreciation of their hard work and their pride of where they come from and so on. But you're missing the point. It has nothing to do with Mexico. It's the border. Two different things. And people come here from all over Asia, Africa, and so on. You don't see many Europeans coming through because they don't like the system anymore.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, I want to go back to the topic. By the way, Maga, you probably appreciate this because I sort of see your point of view here. On Friday, I'm going to have possibly two topics. One is talking to a socialist, although she hasn't answered, so she might cancel that interview. But I do have the second one will probably and most likely be Mexicans for Trump, where I have a Mexican American guest that she supports President Trump, and we're going to discuss, why she supports, and we're going to have people joining that are opposed to that idea. So I think you appreciate that topic, and you're welcome to come by on Friday. Would be after 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and you want to come here and we can discuss more about immigration. But I want to sort of keep to the topic here, which is about socialism. Okay, and
Gotcha.
you did mention capitalism, and you sort of mixed it with the migrant crisis right now. So, by the way, because you mentioned something about, if we're this big capitalist kings here, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? So are you against capitalism? What's your take on that, socialism and capitalism? I'm just curious.
I consider myself a number one American, number two as a business owner since a young age. I lasted very little time on corporate America. I walked out and I said, I don't want to be the employee. I want to be them. I want to be you. I don't want you to be my boss. I want to be a boss. I want to be what you do. And I'm glad I took that. So, yes, I believe on capitalism. I tried to, a long time ago, I tried to unplug out of my cult for the banner of the exceptionalism banner, and try to be more analytic about what kind of economics we manage on our society. And we manage a capitalism to the poor. We execute capitalism to the poor because without consumers, there's no capitalism. Capitalism doesn't function. While we subsidize, the big subsidy goes to the to corporate America, uh, and in a form of socialism, which is macro socialism. Because if we subsidize, plus we give them cuts on taxation, good benefits, we give them sweet deals, deals that we don't give to the bottom part, to the poor side of poor America. We manage a mix of
Just to be
socialist
specific, are you referring to
capitalism.
subsidies like the ones that, let's say, the airline industry was given?
I'll say more like Walmart does, right? Walmart as the ability that they first of all the tax brackets they manage. I wish I could have them, and I question myself why. And I understand the rhetorical question that because they produce trillions of dollars and they create all these job opportunities. And I remember the days of about 4 or 5 presidential cycles where a candidate says, "It's not the job is stupid, it's the wages." Because within this capitalist monolithic speech, where we investors, entrepreneurs, self-employed business owners, we create jobs, we are good, and the issue is the wages. So the question is, I believe on capitalism, although I believe that we, the people that make X amount of zeros and above, we are we enjoy the sweets of socialism towards us, and we execute capitalism by selling products and offering the services to poor America, and we take advantage of that because I set the price based on my competition, and if my competition sell it for $1, I'm gonna try to sell it for 1.25, and I'll settle with a buck. So I take control of the pricing, and I only have
So
250 million poor Americans
okay,
to
so
sell.
I'm just to get to your point here. So are you
Yes.
for capitalism or just maybe not the
Yes.
one we're in right now?
I believe not the one we are right now,
Okay,
because
so
as
you're
John
unhappy
said,
with the current system.
just as John and I believe Jill, I believe that she studied
Mary.
something. Mary, um, yes, he got disturbed. It messed out because whenever I mention the next fact or the next data, I get a lot of pushback. Whoever makes in America under $70,000 is poor. $70,000 a year, it's a poor person, and they don't even know it, just because they can go to 99 cents and buy an American flag, because seventy
Okay,
thousand dollars cannot afford to cover university for their kids.
okay, Mary, do you want to respond to that since he brought you up?
Um, so the problem, the problem I see in a lot of Americans is that come on, I'm like trying to explain it in a way that doesn't offend anybody or doesn't,
Nice, Mary.
give me riots in the comments. Is that most people do not understand they don't know what socialism is. They don't know what fascism is. They don't even know what capitalism is, right? So when we get these terms confused because one side likes to scream an ism out without any sort of kind of philosophical knowledge on what these terms mean, no? Abel,
Like,
entonces, what MAGA described is not socialism. It is, in fact, a form of fascism, where, and I know the left loves to use this word around to describe the right, but fascism and socialism are very aligned because it requires the state intervention in the economy. And so that is what's happening. That's what we see. I'm not saying that we are a fascist state by no means, but that's what we see what we're heading towards. Because fascism uses
May,
corporation.
may, 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 may I say something?
Hold
I
on,
believe
Maga,
that
because she let you. We
so
let
No,
you speak for a
Maga,
while.
you talked for
Maga,
left
we
and
let you
right.
speak for a big while. Let her
Maga.
finalize,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then
Yes,
we'll go
ma'am.
back. Let her
Yes,
finalize. Go ahead,
I
Mary.
believe that you talked for
yes,
like
ma'am.
10 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen,
Sorry.
eh, no, but that's what fascism is, right? So people love to just throw this around because H guy in Germany used the philosophy, but really it's really aligned to a leftist ideology where it requires some sort of state intervention in the economy and the mode of production to exist, right? So what you explained was not socialism at all, at all. It's a form of fascism. Now, in the United States, we do not have, I wouldn't say laissez-faire capitalism. We don't have free markets either, right? So all those social programs that you see, And people like to say that that's a form of socialism, but really the way to fund those programs is through a market economy. It's not through a centralized economic planned economy. These are two very different things. So MAGA, when you like to say that, I'm just like to point that out from I guess a more defined perspective.
Okay, Maga, you can respond. Go ahead.
Well, when we're talking about social issues, I wasn't planning to go into the left or right because that's another rhetoric that I try to not go into lives of the other side of politics of my point of view, because I understood one thing after doing it for a few times. I rather do my content to motivate the side of my ideology to convince more people to come to vote. I realized one thing. Out of my ethnic group, I'm just going to elaborate real quick this because she mentioned left, and I thought I was offering my position and from a capitalist point of view. Let me say something very cruel. I'm I don't give a shit if the whole country, including some of this panel, go poor. If you want to be if you want to use a flag to cover your eyes, be my guest. But on a collective that we call we the people, if 250 million Americans live under poverty because they make under $50,000 a year, it's a goddamn poor country because majority rules. And when it comes down to capitalism or monetization, if we don't, if we want to keep going in circles, excusing the current exercise of capitalism and people getting more poor and poor, and what we do instead of questioning the more than the oligarchy but the aristocracy, what are they doing with the resources and why they're coming so expensive to us? If we want to keep talking about Democrats or politics, Democrats or Republicans, be my guest. Like I said, if we want to play this game, especially the youth, you guys you want to idolize the billionaires, be my guest again. While the more every day more people getting poor in this country, the country unequivocally is going to end up as a third world country, because poverty also it's a burden to academic education. And the more people that drop out of high school, it's one step closer to a third world society. Be my guest. So in regards to fascism, it might be. I didn't study the fascism on social science in regards, or government in regards economics. I don't know if the funding and the excusing and the pardoning and the sweets we give to big macro corporations. I'm talking about the Waltons, the Mercers, X, Y, and Z, the Facebook guy, or all these macro billionaires. If we want to excuse the way we treat them, and accuse politics, whether Republicans or Democrats, again, be my guest. That wasn't my intention. My intention is, if politicians can handle the interest of the poor, which the poor are my co-citizens, then I'm going to question who's the next. I have to follow the money. And I said, you're doing something wrong, brother. Either you are corrupting my politicians, or my politicians are stupid and you're getting away with murder. Because I have 250 million poor son of a guns, 200 million people. And I want to brag that I have an extra 250 million co-citizens that they live on a middle income stage or bracket. And you're the boss, and you're the who writes the paycheck. So if you're sitting nice and you want me to get at war with the politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, I'd rather call them, you shut up, you stay aside, I'm gonna it's gonna be boss to boss, because those politicians, Republicans, that they tell you that they're good, and the Democrats that they tell you they're good for you, if they keep they're having us under this stress and this society fighting among each other, while the mega rich are sitting dogs, sitting nice, uh, we're not going in the good direction. We're the boss. We need to speak bosses against bosses, or bosses to boss. We have to sit down. If
Maga, you're making a mistake thinking that USA it's a democratic country. It's a republic. There is a big difference.
oh, I never said it wasn't a republic.
You,
No, I said
that's
no.
your
I said if
mistake.
we
It is
no,
a
we're
republic.
fighting. No, sir. I
It
never.
is
I
a
said,
republic. It's not democratic.
sir, I never said the country's democratic. I said if we are fighting
You
among
did say that.
Republicans and Democrats, sir. No, I know what I
You
said,
did
sir.
say that. I heard you. I'm sorry.
I promise my world, I cannot say stupid things on the world that I live on, because I suffer financial. I suffer
But Maga,
fiduciary
hold on one
and
second,
fiduciary
because
responsibility.
I'm a little bit lost here.
Go ahead.
So you, from what the statement you made, right? It's wrong, and you mentioned people making, I believe, below 70 or 60 as poor people. So you're for higher wages, like much higher wages.
It's just a
But it's a
theory
yes or
based.
no. It's a yes or no question. Are you for
I
higher wages than that? Because you mentioned that while the boss and the
if
big
there's
guys
a
are
question or a
sitting there
comment
happy, their
after that,
workers are working for lower wages. Is that what you said?
if there's a question or comment for the purpose, I rather not. But if you allow me to elaborate on that, I
But would you be
believe that,
elaborating a lot? That's why I sort of want to
well,
sort of hound
because
on your main point.
macro corporate
Because the
should pay
reason why I
more.
asked that, Maga, is because you said you were for capitalism. You
Yes,
said that you're a business owner.
yes.
But at the same time, you criticize other business owners that they're, because you mentioned earlier that you
No,
didn't want to
I'm
be
not
the
at the
worker,
level
you
of
want
the
to be on the
Waltons.
other side, but now you're
I'm
criticizing the other side. So
I'm
I'm a little bit, where are you
okay.
going with this?
And that's why the answer cannot be yes or no. So no, I'm talking about the Waltons, right? I'm talking about the macro corporate has funds yearly. They have the space of profit sharing to raise the price to the cashiering at Walmart, or to or to the worker at night at Home Depot, or worker at night
When
at
you say rise
Target.
the pricing, you mean rise their
No,
wages
the
or the
wages.
pricing of
No, the
products?
way. No, they have no. They have they have the opportunity based on profits. They have the opportunity to raise their wages.
Got it.
A small
Wages. Okay.
business cannot. A small business. Come on, the small business on the inner city, on our streets, we have to understand per capita, per radius, per perimeter, per housing, per profit sharing on the inner city, the small businesses, the profit margins they manage a year in America does not allow them to pay more, and that's where the employee should start their
I get your
working,
point out. I get your point
right?
out. So you're against the big corporations. You're not going after the small businesses owners, because that would
Absolutely
be sort
not.
of hypocritical, because you are a
No,
small business owner.
I understand exactly how the math. That's how I started as a small
Okay,
tiny
so
little
basically
business.
you're against a positive cash flow for big corporations.
I'm against macro mega positive. I don't believe that a an entrepreneur in the most amazing consumer population in the history of humankind can come in and establish their business with the line of, I'm putting my money at risk. Yes, in exchange you get a labor force, their youth working life to produce the goods or services, and then suddenly you become mega macro millionaire, because that employee is gonna buy your
I
products
have
or
a
services.
question
Okay.
for
So,
Okay.
Maga.
I get your point. Okay. Hold on, John. Mary, do you want to respond to that? Do you get what Mega is referring to here in his statement?
Oh, no.
So repeat that again. I couldn't hear you.
No and no.
So you don't get the point, or you don't want to respond. Lou, do you want to respond?
Sorry, I really, no offense, mi amor, but like it's just in circles. I don't know. I don't know I don't know.
MAGA fucker, you're living up to your name, darling. We're all so.
believe me, MAGAs hate me. I promise you. They.
No, 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 no.
I can give you a huge list of
No, MAGA.
MAGAs that I
Hold on,
leave
hold on. Don't get,
on their
don't.
mind every day.
MAGA, you
Maga, we
already
don't hate
moved
you.
like
You're
a
welcome here,
No,
by
no,
the
not
way.
you,
I don't hate you at
not you
all.
whatsoever, not
No, no,
whatsoever.
no, no,
I
no,
state
no,
I will not discuss politics in this panel. I'll be crazy.
no, no,
Well,
There's
no.
no
Maga,
need. We're
let's be
not gonna agree.
realistic. You sort of did, because earlier you made a statement about Mexico is not sending RPs or criminals anymore, sort of,
But
taunting
MAGA,
what Trump said. So, you sort of did throw it out there. Go ahead, Lou.
I was thinking about the same thing. That's why, MAGA, I just want to make sure, honey. Number
You,
one,
honey,
are you a
thank you.
Democrat or Republican?
Send me your picture, huh?
Are you a
I,
Democrat or Republican,
Can we
darling?
pause this? We need
I
to
am.
like him alive.
I say I'm an independent
Ah,
because
I
I'm not
knew it. I
registered
knew
Democrat.
it.
May I?
Hmm.
I'll explain you and put attention.
No, no, do
30
not
years
explain. Do not
marriage,
explain. Don't worry.
Maga,
a
but okay,
business owner.
the question was briefly,
I was
because
a
you spoke a lot, let's be fair. The question
uh-huh,
was, are you Republican or a Democrat? And your answer is
independent.
independent. Okay, Lou, go ahead, Lou.
Shocking. But uh going back to what our topic in reality again is talking about, socialism and basically in the United States. But based on what you have said, you appear to be a very successful capitalist. Am I correct?
I'll take the very out, and
Make
I'm
it short,
set.
MAGA.
I'm
Make it
set.
short. Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm set.
You're said beautiful. So you are the typical person that represents what we're talking about, that we should not, I mean, we should be afraid of a socialism society. Am I correct?
I'm repeat that. I'm the typical person that you should be afraid of.
No, we should not. No, no, no. All the
Oh,
country, because
gotcha.
you
The
you have
contrary.
made it.
Gotcha.
You have made it so far in this
Well,
capitalist system. Is that right?
sort of, because
So,
then
so my
on the
question to you, hold on.
go
My
ahead.
question to you is, based on your experience, and I
Hmm.
figure that you have been here for how long?
All my life.
Okay, all your life. So, based on your experience with our current system and with our current government,
Yes.
are you? Can you tell me if how can do you think that we are going towards? Isn't it scary that we're going or I'm asking you, does it sound like we're going towards a socialism a little bit around here with our current system? Make
No.
it short. Make it
No.
short. 2 minutes.
Very short. No, and very short. No. If anything, again, if more people is turning poor every day, is for one simple reason.
Okay.
If one side of the society and big numbers are going poor every day and poorer, at the as smaller side, we are getting a bit better and a bit better. So
In other
it
words,
push
you're getting richer while others are getting poorer. That's what you're
right,
saying.
and yes, and if we base the if we're going socialist on the fact that some people right now see the economy in bad. Uh, I doubt that we are giving money. The only money that I hear we're giving to poor is to these caravans people, these newcomers, whether Central Americans, Venezuelans, or Peruvians, which I have firsthand as these new Peruvians and Venezuelans are coming, and suddenly they're driving 2014s,
Maga,
15s,
10
13s,
seconds.
yes, Hyundai's. I don't know where the money comes from. But no, I don't. I'm not afraid. I'm against socialism. I'm I'm an enemy of socialism, although I've never experienced it. But I'm indoctrinated that socialism is evil. So
Okay, go ahead,
I'm
Lou. You can
against it.
respond.
Oh no, basically, what he's saying is exactly what we're talking about. I mean, obviously, he appears to be a person who have been taking advantage of the capitalist system, and that's great. But on the other hand, we were focusing on, we're moving towards the other side, and obviously, it's benefiting him. I don't get it how, but I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical about the way that he answered. But again, he represents. He's represent the typical foreigner, or even though he said he has lived his entire life in here. I guess that you came here when you were a child, very little.
Well, I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican. So besides everything that you can name, uh, I did not cross the border. So I know the system of the United States society. I have seen and witnessed the evolution of my parents, my great grandparents, my ancestors. They've been on these lands for long time prior to the constitution of this country. But however, no, I'm not foreign in America in the
So
United
so
States of
beautiful,
America. I've never been.
beautiful. You are the typical person that we exactly want in this country, and hopefully you're giving
Oh, thank
opportunity.
you.
Yeah, and hopefully you're giving opportunities to those who are coming behind, and do not take advantage of them. That's all.
Okay,
However,
hold on a second. Mary, I believe she wants to say something. Go ahead, Mary.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, now you can. Okay. No, nada. Can everybody like the live, please? It's
Yes,
ridiculous.
guys, please
37,000
tap the
likes.
live.
37,000 likes. We gotta get this up.
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
want an actual socialist on the panel so we can rip them apart.
Yeah, actually, the
you know
special
what?
guest
I've
was a
never met
socialist
a
for tonight, but he
socialist,
didn't show up.
and
I
I
think
would
he got
Of course
love
he
scared.
didn't
to
show
He'll
up.
be
see
They
here
all
to
hide
talk
tomorrow.
to him.
behind
And I have a
anime
question for a
profile
socialist.
pictures.
I've never met a socialist, so I will be very glad
Oh,
if
I've
a
spoken to
socialist
a
would
lot.
like.
You guys should check out my lives. I get a lot of socialists here. In
Have to invite
fact,
me
I'm
next time.
I'm supposed to interview a socialist this Friday again. She called herself a socialist Democrat,
Oh my
and
God.
she's
Great. Yeah.
hardcore socialist. Yes, just like the guy that was supposed to come tonight. And again, she might not show up. Like this guy didn't show up because they like to say I will show up and then they don't show up.
No,
But that's
never.
why the backup topic will be Mexicans for Trump on Friday in case she doesn't show up. But just let me
So
give you a
should
little bit of
I?
background of the guy that was supposed to come here tonight. I actually interviewed him last week under the same topic, and the live wasn't that long, unfortunately. That's why I wanted to do a part two. But in that live, he mentioned that he believed that he didn't say he was a Democrat. He said he was a socialist. He was actually against the Democratic Party right now, obviously also against the Republican Party. But he said, just in brief, that he believed in his socialist perfect world, the country should give everyone all of their basic needs for free, like health care, food, housing, college. And I believe he even mentioned as well transportation as well. So then I said to him, well, then if that's the point, if you go to college for free, you get food for free, you get a house for free, then what's the point of going to work? What's the point? Oh, because he also said that the Federal Reserve should be abolished, which I get some Americans
Absolutely
believe
should
that
be
as well.
abolished. Should
But
absolutely be abolished.
right,
Yes, I'm pro it be
I get
abolished
that
because
point, right? I get that point. But this is what he said, that the federal government should print its own money, and then because I said, well, how will we
But they
afford
do.
all of these services, right? Well,
no, you
exactly,
don't. It's the
right.
Federal Reserve. It's the
Right, the
people of
Federal Reserve
government.
is printing it's
It
sort of
is. It's not.
happening
So it's
already
not we the
anyway,
people.
right?
We,
Right. But my,
we
my
pay
point to
for it.
him was, because I said, how are we going to pay for all of this? He said, no, just the government can print all the money that needs to make this a reality.
Qué
And
lindo.
then I said, well, but then what would be the point of going to work if you're getting pretty much everything for free? So he said, well, at that point, that money might not even be necessary, he said. And he sort of corrected himself in his beliefs.
So
He said that because right now, from what he's seen, people are very unhappy going to work because they're doing it for money. So in his perfect world, he
So
believes that if everything is given for free, people would actually choose their careers, since college would be for free as well. People would choose their careers out of their passion, and they would eventually work for free.
no, okay. These people are not progressive. They're regressive. Okay, that's what it is. So what do you want to go back to a bartering system? Do you want to plow the land with oxen again because capitalism? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They're not
However,
progressives. They're degressives.
it's such a small, insignificant amount, and I'll say it with all due respect to that kind of
It's not.
mentality. All
It's
due
not.
respect, because
No,
the
it's
reason
not.
why, because I'll tell you why. I tell you why, because the biggest, it's Bernie Sanders. It just vanished his philosophy. It vanished because people like me rejected many of those stands.
Oh, by the way, he
So
was very pro Bernie. That was his man,
yeah, of
Bernie.
course it was pro Bernie. No,
So that
Mana, it's
showed
much larger
America
than you
that.
think it is. It's much larger than you think it is.
But I don't think can rotate the only thing that Democrats and Republicans we are alike is capitalism, and we like to be able to reach to amass the biggest amount of money based off our effort and our intellectual capacity on the fields we become good at it. We're not gonna. I'm not gonna let nobody
Mary, I want
make
to
me.
ask you this, since just I want to get your point of view on this. So you said that you're also for the Federal Reserve to be abolished. Can you
Of
please
course,
elaborate as to why you believe that should happen? And
because I
then
think
what would be the alternative at that point?
I think we need to go back to the gold standard,
Mhm.
where the market determined the price of the dollar, not bureaucrats or the private entities via this bureaucracy.
Yeah.
The worst thing that ever happened in this country, and people are fighting between Republican, Democrat. The worst thing that ever happened in this country was during the Nixon presidency when he abolished completely the gold standard from the dollar. 100%.
And
100%.
that would limit the amount of money being printed, obviously,
Of
regardless of who's
course,
in
because
power.
it would
Correct?
be regulated by a market system. It would
Not
not be
only
regulated by 20 people in a room.
correct, and that 20 people are those macro mega, the actually the aristocrats of the families. They own the reserve. So whenever we hear this lame term of printing money, we print money. No, we knock the door to the Federal Reserve, because that's where they got together and they said, okay, we're gonna print the money and we're gonna lend you the money to you, the people, and you're gonna pay me some interest to all the big people, because we are the ones who own the oil, the refineries, the rigs, and everything about the oil. So if it's our oil and we put our money at risk, every dollar you ask me to print it, I'm gonna charge you money. And if because I don't want to spend my liquid or my gold, uh, 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 you're gonna ask China, and we're gonna be your co-signer, and then I'll print the money. But you owe me the money, and you're gonna pay me.
Well, you
And
know what? Republicans, let me tell you something. Republicans are not innocent in this cause, okay? Because you guys maybe not remember, because people have short memory spans, that the only Republican that was talking about this issue back in 2008 and 2012 was a man named Ron Paul
Ron
on
Paul,
this stage, okay?
Yeah.
And Ron Paul was murdered. I mean, not murdered. I mean, when he went on stage and started talking,
politically,
Literally.
His political career was murdered.
yeah, that's what I mean. Um,
they
when he
banded him.
started going on the stage and started talking about these issues, it's almost as if the Republican Party wanted to hang him alive on the stage. Okay, so Republicans are not innocent at all on this topic. Most politicians in Washington D.C. have no idea what monetary policy is. Not Rand Paul, Elijah, Ron Paul. His name is Ron Paul. That his
Right,
father. Two different
right,
politicians.
right, right. The curly hair guy that
The
he
the
went
father.
from
The
the
father.
went that he went right, the father, pretty much he got old, but then the son Rand, he also at the beginning, I remember he will take the floor and fight the
Yes,
issue.
Rand Paul is, but he's more mainstream.
Well, he knew that he was talking about a point that it's beyond his pedigree, because the Federal Reserve only belongs to the people that owns the Federal Reserve, and it's a that would take a constitutional reform to knock it down. And I don't know if we have enough voters, educated voters, to help us with that. So
Back in 2012, Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul made a bill, co-signed a bill, piece of legislation to end the Fed. So that's the only time in history like a libertarian and a socialist kind of got together on that. FYI.
which country can you name today that is fully executing socialism as a one and only form of government and
Socialism is not a form of government. Socialism is a form of economy.
correct. What country uses that form of economics?
Well, North Korea, to name two. Y digo Venezuela.
Nope.
Venezuela is like highly mixed. It's a strange crypto. I don't even know. Not crypto.
No,
Yeah, they're
crypto is
just under complete
currency, not a
dictatorship
form
at
of
this
economics.
point.
Right, and no, and they're capitalists. I mean, once it's a capitalist mixed with socialism in some form, and here I am, and because that is the problem in regards. I'm not sure if North Korea is a fully socialist.
Of course it is.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it's probably much more socialist than Cuba is.
Do we know any given country today that it has no forms of blockage in regards the ability to market, promote, sell their goods and services to the world without any type of obstacles that we impose?
Who's we?
We refers to USA, and
Thank you.
yes, they are. And
Like who?
also, Maga, I do have a question for you,
Which
if you
country,
have
before
a
you
little
ask me the
bit
question?
time.
By all means, I'm an open book. What country?
Okay, so we were talking about
1 second, John. You said
corporations
yes,
a
they are
few
other
minutes
countries.
ago.
Which countries?
Singapore.
Oh, Singapore is socialist?
No, you just said what? Ay, Dios mío. What do you?
No, it's John. When John says,
Okay, I think he asked me a question.
yes,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
because he
I,
says yes, there are other current countries around the world that are exercising socialism.
yeah.
Right,
So
John? Which countries?
my question to you was you mentioned corporations that make
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of money and so on. Do you know how CEOs are getting paid, the system?
Oh my goodness. Well, nowadays there's a mix of tricky ways to avoid
No, I'm
taxation.
going to tell you what. I'm going to answer for you.
Got you.
They have a fixed salary
Right.
that doesn't exceed 300 grand, and
Got
then
you.
they have a bonus. That
Right.
bonus is based on how they create profit for the company. It's a
That's right.
percentage.
Hmm.
So if I'm a CEO and I have a, let's say, $250,000 salary, and I made $5 billion
Hmm.
for the company profit,
Hmm.
and I take 5% off of it,
Hmm.
and I buy a yacht from
Hmm.
it,
Right.
do you think is it wrong? Because that's how it's paid. I know that for a fact. And
I
a lot
I
of people say that, oh, all these corporations make this money and so on. All those people get all this money. It's based on my performance in my contract with the company. I don't own the company. I just perform for the company. You
I
say
own
you own
corporations.
a
I know
small
how it works. Yes.
business. You earn your money. So why a CEO can earn his money? My question to you.
Gotcha. All right. Before he writes the check and before we go into the first month of that quarterly fiscal quarter, all right, because everything is based on quarters, within the pay plan, that CEO is nobody. And I'm telling you firsthand. I don't know if you're a CEO, but I am. And so, having said that, that CEO has a working force, and that working force will be work under X, Y, or Z environment. But the working force has a say to reach the projected profit margins so that CEO can be granted a bonus check.
Correct, and
However,
they will all earn a
may I,
profit too.
again, because like I said, maybe you are a CEO and you own a corporations. I do, so I know a little bit about this. So let me continue.
Okay.
However, within the bonus structure, as a team player, because if that CEO is not a dick, has to understand that he has a team. Either he has a team of slave workers or a team members that thanks also to them, to their sweat equity, he reaches those profit margins projected. Why is it that if he is getting that those $50 million to buy their yacht, within that, is it net that the actually board of executives or the actual shareholders cannot put a plan 10 20 millions out of that 50 million 20 million to trickle down those 10 or 20 million to the team that made shining or capitalize or help them to reach those projections.
Because
So
that team has a contract also, and they actually will earn from their actually contract. It
okay,
gets down to the middleman and to the lower man. It's from the top to the bottom.
do you
Everybody
think
has a contract.
it's unhumane? Let me ask you this. What do you think that if we can tweak those set of rules you are defending or you are expressing right now, do you think, because contracts, according to what I have
It's up
heard,
to each individual to sign a contract or not.
according to
To the
according to
individual.
according to what I know about contracts, contracts are made to be reformed, amended, modified, tweaked. So,
No, you are, once you
and the
sign
second
it,
thing,
you're into it. You
I
agree to it.
actually my world is about contracts, and and the upper hand is taken by whoever writes the contract, John. So like when you rent a house, if you ever did, maybe you own it, but when your landlord have you signed that leasing agreement, he wrote it. The rules are on his side, and the gainings are on his
Not
side.
not true. You can have an
As an
attorney
employer,
watch it over, and it's your choice if you sign
look,
it or not. It's your
John,
own choice.
definitely I will not change. I'm not the person capable to change corporate mentality. I can only I can only
That's not the
execute.
point. It's the point of the contract.
Again, I
Two different
understand.
points.
And again, in the contract, it was written by not by the employee. The employee has the right to not take it, and now he's an employee. But
Exactly.
however, what I was stating, I'm not sure if you are the CEO that wrote that $50 million check for
No,
that.
an attorney wrote
Okay,
that.
so then I will tell you that we, the ones we cut checks trimestral based on our profit reaching projections reaching, we have the ability without a gun on our head, without becoming less richer. We have an opportunity to say, you know what? I can cut a check for 50 million. But I can
So,
also cut a check.
so
May
if
I
I'm a
finish my
farmer,
statement, John?
let
May
me
I
put it
finish
this
my
way.
Okay,
If I'm
statement,
a
John?
hold
farmer,
on, guys, because I was while you guys were sharing thoughts here. I was actually doing some research here
Yes.
since we brought up the Federal Reserve. I wanted to kind of go back to that a little bit because that's sort of it's a very important subject that not a lot of people talk about, and there's probably a reason why too for that. And as you mentioned, who was it? Was it Rand Paul that or Ron Rand, right?
Ron, R-O-N.
ROA.
RON, the dot.
RON.
Yeah,
That was
he's
a father,
retired.
right?
Yes, yes.
Is he still alive, by the way? He was very
Yes,
elderly
he
at that time.
is. He's
I'm not
alive,
sure.
and he still does podcasts on Twitter.
Okay, so but besides, he was very tough on the Federal Reserve. But besides him, I haven't really heard anyone be tough on the
There was
Federal Reserve.
no, because all the guys that were really into it are no longer in Congress.
It's very simple, bro. You're dealing with the true, and the one and only true powerful people in this country.
So I was, that's why I was sort of away from the mic here. I was trying to find different sources about how they're audited and all this stuff, and I really couldn't really find much, which I find
No,
it very
They're not audited.
interesting too.
They're not
No.
audited. That was
But
one of the
here's the
legislations
thing,
they
though,
wanted
that,
to have.
and this is what, by the way, I've looked into this before, but you get involved into all these other topics, right, that are trending and stuff. But I find it interesting that I struggle to find like mainstream media articles discussing how the Fed is audited.
No, because they're not audited.
They're not.
Right, exactly. But I'm saying that like I'm just sharing that I was struggling here trying to find like and what I found was like people on Reddit sort of like giving information, but you can't cite that as a source, obviously. But what I found was this article by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. So themselves, their own website, are the ones that elaborate on how they're audited. And I want to read a little bit of this, you guys, for everyone watching as well. Is the Fed audited? And this is what the article from the bank's website said, okay? The Fed is extensively audited as required by federal law. More than 425,000 hours each year are devoted to the following. Each reserve bank has internal auditors who report to the bank's board of directors. This is similar to the auditing structure used by large corporations in the US. Board of Governors staff examines activities of the reserve banks. The board has oversight authority for the entire Federal Reserve System. Financial statements of the regional reserve banks and board of governors must be audited every year by an external auditor. St. Louis Fed's financial statements are published in our annual report. The Board of Governors annual report includes the financial statements of the board as well as of the 12 reserve banks combined. Okay, then it continues. Is monetary policy audited? Monetary policy is not audited in the traditional sense because there are no clear-cut standards for auditing policy decisions as they are for auditing financial statements. For example, however, the Fed has become increasingly transparent in its decision making over the past few decades. So that's their own website. So
I'm
they're
looking
saying
at
that
the
they are
website right now.
extensive audited, but then if you scroll lower, it says it's not really audited in a
Okay,
traditional sense.
I'm on their website right now, and I'm looking at the 2022 St. Louis. But you said St. Louis, no?
Yes, St. Louis.
Okay,
Yes.
you're telling me an extensive audit. Guess how many pages the audit is?
Yeah, I was actually trying to
Extensive.
pull up. I was actually trying to pull up
Ex-
the reports.
Two.
extensive. Okay, guess how
Yeah.
many pages?
Two.
No, no,
No,
no. There's only 50 pages, but 50 pages is an
it's
audit.
nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
the one that I found is 63 pages.
Yeah, that's not an audit.
That's not an. That's a
But what I found
pre-screen.
interesting in their
You're
own website, it says that they are audited by internal auditors, and then further down it says is verified by an external one. And then if you scroll lower, it says it's not really audited in a traditional sense.
Wouldn't you wouldn't you love that to audit yourself versus an agent from IRS? Wouldn't you be happy?
Right.
You
That's what I'm
always
saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy
balance to
how
zero.
even in their website they sort of
No, no.
are giving you clues here.
And they're the families who own after or through the Great Depression. That's how they and and then the gold disappearance. That's how they when we were broke, they said we got the money and we're gonna set you the rules and we're gonna establish this bank. It's our bank. We have the property, intellectual property, every property of the bank, and we're gonna lend you the money. We're gonna lend money to you guys, and whenever we
They,
don't want to use our cash, we're gonna knock the door to China or Japan or Russia or whatever, and we're gonna
Go
print the
ahead,
money.
Mary.
So basically, we're
What do
gonna
you want
own
to
most of
reply
it.
to what I just
Go
read
ahead.
here?
no, I was just gonna say in general, I think the Federal Reserve monetary policy is probably one of the most, if not the most important issue of our as a country, but it doesn't get nearly enough
Attention.
What do you think that
attention
is?
because it's not a sexy topic.
Mhm.
Well, one, it's not sexy, so people don't understand it, right? And two, the powers that be are the same. The powers that be are the same people in the 20 people in the room at the Federal Reserve Bank board
Yeah,
are the
they
same
suppress
people
it.
who own JP Morgan, are the same people that are the sponsors of CNN, Fox News, all of it.
And by the way, the Federal Reserve is as Federal Express, correct? It is a private
It's a
entity.
Yes,
private
yes,
entity.
it's a
It's a pri
private
it's a
entity.
private, I hate saying this because if it was truly private, it would have competition, right? It's not, it's private, but it's completely given autonomy and no competition from any other forces.
The monopoly.
Do
Yes,
you
it's a
think,
monopoly.
Mary, that okay, so let's say in our social media platforms, like let's say people like me and people like us, we don't really talk about it because the audience is not really interested in that. They don't really understand it. They don't really see it in the mainstream media. So that could be one. But what about other people that have a bigger platform, let's say like government officials? Are they really ignorant in the sense that
Yes.
they don't know how economic works,
Yes.
or are they scared to talk about it?
No, it's no. I don't think you guys I worked in DC, no, for a while. I don't think you guys understand the level of stupidity that most Congress people have. They
Oh
are
no, I've seen.
However, Mary,
they're
how
Hold
retarded,
on,
okay?
let Mary finish. Go ahead, Mary.
No, they're stupid. They're stupid. They're normal citizens that have law. Some of them have law degrees, and that's it. They have never provided any sort of wealth in this country, and they go to Congress, and that's not all of them, but that's a vast majority of them.
So just because they have a degree, they think they're like genius, and that's
No,
it.
they don't know anything about anything.
Exactly. Just because they get a degree, and then it's just
They just
like.
they know laws, but they don't know policy.
Correct.
So, Mary, do you? So you don't believe that notion that there's a conspiracy that you cannot really touch the Fed? You don't believe in that?
Hold on, I have to migrate to the living room. Ask me in 5 minutes.
I do. I
Okay,
do believe.
go
I do
go ahead, Maga.
believe
Do you
that.
believe there's a
Yes.
conspiracy where even on these platforms, let's say you shouldn't talk about the Fed too much?
Yes, yes. I'm because within the last 30 years, and I may miss names. One is Ron Paul, another one Bernie Sanders. Just to name some, they have lost their careers. Ron Paul, Ron Paul, his career was just buried under so many layers of dirt, and because he dared to engage. We're talking about these families, the J.P. Morgan, the Edison, the Mercers. So they are the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. So they will suppress you. They will suppress you
Well,
immediately, like a
I
child.
do gotta disagree a little bit with that on the Bernie Sanders, though. I think he killed his own political career himself because he was just the
No, no,
socialist things that
no.
he was bringing up to the
Yeah.
table.
No, I think
I
that the DNC killed him.
Go ahead, Mary. Go ahead.
No, the DNC killed him.
His own party.
Yes, the same reason why they
I
buried
remember
Ron
that, by the
Paul.
way. Go
The
ahead.
same
But
thing. Bernie Sanders was version 2 of Ron Paul of the left. They buried him. The GOP buried Ron Paul and they buried Bernie Sanders. You guys don't remember because maybe you weren't here in this country yet, or I don't know when you
Oh
came.
no, I remember.
Okay,
but then remember, Mary, exactly the same people that bury Ron Paul,
they buried
Bernie
Bernie.
Sanders. I mean, we're talking about the same
Mira,
people. So
and
they don't see
I don't
parties; they
like
see
Bernie Sanders.
big
I don't like
mouths,
Bernie Sanders,
right?
and I don't think he
They
would win. But that's why they buried him.
right for the purpose of
So
pulling out that.
yeah, I mean Bernie Sanders lost me the minute he started talking about socialism and stuff like that.
No, of course he
But
was never
Rand
going to
Correct
win.
Paul,
to you, but to the money people, they weren't interested on the topics. You were uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable on the attacks or the questioning to the Federal Reserve moves or philosophy that they were engaging against our money.
so well, yeah, Ron Paul. By the way, I believe he was running against Romney, right at the time.
Yeah.
Was it Romney?
Well, it was first McCain and then Romney.
McCain and Romney, right? But he tried twice, didn't he?
Yeah, 2008 and 2012.
And he lost both times.
Both times.
Yeah, so his message really hit me. The things he was saying actually made sense,
You guys, he had like
but
he had
nobody
insane.
cared.
He
Right.
had an insane organic campaign. He's the one that started the Tea Party thing.
But what I noticed is, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he have a huge following in social media? Like people were for what he was saying, but
It
when
was
the
yeah.
mainstream media would show the polls, he was like way down.
Yeah. I remember because I used to campaign for him. I worked on his campaign in 2008. And in New Hampshire, we got like 25%, which we got second place in New Hampshire.
But here,
And they buried him. They buried him. They buried him.
So
It's
he
funny
was
because,
popular, but he was
oh my God,
showing
yeah.
very like not that
Because
powerful
they
in the
because they didn't give
polls.
him a chance, and they told him they told the media painted him as a crazy person, conspiracy theorist.
Yes, he was painted as crazy. I remember that.
there's
And
two
one of his
topics.
main things was to abolish the Federal Reserve, correct?
Oh
Yes,
yeah, that was his big main issue,
The-
and getting
and the
out of
military
the
complex,
wars.
and the military
Yeah.
complex.
It's funny because now you see the Republicans nowadays, Mr. Trump talking about the same issues, and all the Republicans seem to love him now. And I'm like, what? Where were you? Where were you 10 years ago? It's crazy. The polls have
Right.
reversed.
And do you
There's two.
think, and this question is for everyone here, you know, like I said, on my lives, I had many people that are opposed to my views, and we discuss and we go back and forth, this and that. But do you think if the American people really understood this situation with the Federal Reserve, do you think that in that aspect, we would, or most of us would agree or be on the same page?
No,
Why?
Because people, when you say okay, for example, if you say let's put the dollar back in the gold standard where the markets decide, they'll say, oh well, that's privatizing the dollar. That's corporatizing the dollar. That's what they'll say, right? And so now that we live in an environment and a climate where capitalism is now a dirty C word, right? It's not communism anymore. It's capitalism. That's the dirty C word. They're scared of that, right? So they're scared of the corporations dealing with the dollar when they don't understand that corporation is already doing it, and it's a monopoly.
Okay, Lou wants to respond. She's been waiting. Go ahead, Lou.
Sorry, Mama.
Oh no, I just wanted to say good night, guys. I was just falling asleep. I'm sorry.
Dale, besitos.
Yeah, buenas noches para todos, okay? So good night, guys.
Thank
See
you,
you
Lou. I
tomorrow.
appreciate
Good
you.
night, Lo.
No problem. Bye-bye.
I agree
What do
with
you
Mary.
think, John? Do you think if Americans understood what's happening here, do you think they would be for abolishing the Fed or not?
Well, I think it is a matter of indoctrination. I don't think people really understand what's happening around the world. They're just fed up information that it's not real. And the most important thing is mass media. That's why I'm trying to get on you, on others' opinions. I try to listen to other countries' private information that doesn't report to MSM.
So, Mary, do you think that if we would go back to the gold standard, it would truly make us capitalist at that point?
No, of course not. There's too much regulation in the marketplace, in my opinion.
Can you just share can you be more elaborate on that?
Like the lobbying groups that lobby Congress to make a special thing that only they can do, like the subsidies. The subsidies is a perfect example of that. Giving subsidies to Amazon, but not giving subsidies to Vega Alex's son. If you wanted an Amazon, you know what I mean?
I agree.
I'm saying that they give subsidies to Amazon, which is a form of government intervention in the marketplace, but they don't give subsidies to, I don't know, mom and pop businesses.
Got it. So you're saying that this is like really, really deep now at that point. It's just way too.
We don't live in a capitalist country. We live in a crony country. It's crony capitalism. This has nothing to. This doesn't. It's nowhere near a free market.
Yeah, the corruption is deeply rooted.
Oh
When you
yeah.
mention Mary, when you mention loving, which we are getting into a conversation I love and I like because we may get to a point where we may put a pause into Republicans and Democrats. Here it goes. Mary? What do you think? What do you say about Citizens United? Are you aware of this story? Are you aware when it was voted, but when it was when it became legal? What is Citizens United, and how are they connected to lobbying and candidates funding without disclosing sources and amounts?
So just for clarification, guys, for everyone watching, I just pulled it up here, and then Mary can respond. This is per Wikipedia. Okay, so what does Citizens United do? ECU and Citizens United. That's what you're talking about, right, Maga?
Citizen United, yes.
Okay. It's a political action committee in the U.S. The organization is working to reverse the U.S. Supreme Court 2010 decision in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, which deregulated limits on independent expenditure group spending for or against specific candidates.
And you see why, if the youth, I'm a bit older than you, you put attention, you unplug yourself of candidate names, and you question if Republicans and Democrats, and you ask where the money comes from. I want to know the name, because if you guys can follow the name, the money, and chances are you get that the money comes from these companies, whether JP Morgan, these families, these big CEOs, that they will modify it and keep locks around this cronism. Mary made a comment that brought up the cronism comes from lobbying. Lobbying comes from Citizens United. The ability where the mega macro oligarchism and aristocrat America, they pour money to choose a candidate that they will listen and hear the lobbyism in Washington, so they can keep going, moving forward towards the cronism Mary referred to.
Because basically it's just unlimited, if you will.
Yes, how can Vega compete with the owner of with the Walton family, with one of the brothers, in regards what you call the money you donate to your candidate versus one of the Walton brothers, and say and you and your interest for that candidate is different than the Waltons. Who do you think that candidate is going to listen if you pitch in $100, but the Walton writes a check for a $50 million and it's undisclosed? Your money, you gotta disclose it.
Well,
The Walton family
that's
cannot
open
disclose it,
to
not even the name.
interpretation.
It's
And that's what I'm saying is indoctrination for children actually takes uh, part of this because
Okay, hold on, John, because he actually asked Mary the question. Mary, do you want to answer MAGA? Mary, go ahead. Can you hear us?
real quick.
You got to unmute, Mary.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi, now we hear you.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what's wrong with this. I don't know what the question was. If I knew what Citizen United was?
Oh, how the implication that it has on the candidate choosing candidates, how they nurture the candidates, how they pay, they contribute the enormous amount of cash that they don't have to disclose, neither the names, and
Yeah,
how
that happens on both sides. Happens
correct,
on both
correct,
sides.
correct. So they have the ability to own the two candidates. So they have way more money than us here, because we pitch in $50, $100. Who is that candidate gonna listen to? So that's why I said we're hitting the right, we're going on the right direction with this conversation, and that's why I ask you, what is your position about Citizen United in regards to the topic you brought up, which is lobbying, which is all this has to do with the chronism you're talking about. And on my end, I connect Citizens
I
United
agree.
is the source.
Yes, I agree. Citizens United must be
It's,
dismantled.
yes. Unfortunate, it was passed. It was a big battle back in 2004, where the Cheneys pushed. And Halliburton was the main or the spearhead of contributions lobbying at the Supreme Court to turn to give the same power, electoral power or voting power to corporate America than us, and automatically whoever has the deeper pockets owns the candidate. So corporate America, and that's why corporate America now owns the future of us, and that's why Mary brings the term chronism, because we are so far bought by Citizens United ability, or by the not the oligarchy but the aristocrats, which are the owners of the Federal Reserve.
100%. Is there any socialists in the chat that want to come up? I'm like, I want to argue with it. I want to argue.
Yeah, if there's any socialist here that you want to come up, you can send a request.
But let me tell you, I will tell you something. They'll never come. They never come, Vega. Listen, you probably haven't, my profile, no? We got viral because of the socialists. And they
Really?
never,
Can you explain, please?
okay, so our content, what we do is I document my husband from coming from Cuba to the United States. So his first time going to Walmart, his first time getting American paycheck, his first time, a lot of first times for him where he was like, from Cuba, Venezuela, you're just like in shock, right? And so a few,
Well, I came very little, so I really didn't know Venezuela, but my family, yes, that came later on.
yeah. So you've seen your family I don't know how it is in Venezuela. I think it's a little bit more advanced than it is in Cuba. But when you come from Cuba, it's like you're like a fucking caveman, right? And you're like, what the hell is this? A grocery store with everything filled? What is this? And so, anyways, the content, we went viral many times. And we only went, the first few times we went viral is because of communists, that they don't believe us, that they think we're lying, that it's the embargo, it's this, it's the US imperialism, it's that, it's this. And so when we do lives, they'll never come up. You know why? Because then their whole virtue signaling goes out the door, because you have to hear the lived experiences, and they don't want to listen to ours. Like that?
Mary, let me tell you that, well, I'm glad that you came across this live, and I'm glad you're here. I follow you actually right now because I've encountered and I've discussed these topics with a lot of socialists here, and there's followers here that you guys have been with me for a little while. You know that some socialists have actually joined the conversation, and it gets very interesting. The things they say are so wild. So I'm glad that you came across this live, and I guarantee you that if you continue to join us, you're going to encounter a lot of socialists that join this conversation.
You bring me up, I'll rip them to shreds.
Well, I want to do this, if you don't mind. I think because I like to have a special guest almost every night as much as I can. I think I have an opening sometime next week. Would you like to be the special guest? And I can bring you in where we can discuss the topics like we did tonight, because we're getting into some really good stuff here. So we can discuss Federal Reserve, socialism, capitalism, and be in that sort of realm. And I'm pretty confident that we're going to have people that would want to be heard that think the opposite way.
Of course. Are you kidding?
Mary, if I and Vega add Citizens United topic, I promise you're gonna be surprised how
I will.
complicated
I'm going
this
to
topic
yes,
is.
the
And
topics I'm
important.
going to make. So I'm going to make Mary the special guest for next week, sometime next week, probably maybe towards the end of the week. And then the topic is going to be various topics in one live. So we're going to talk about socialism, capitalism, Citizens United, and the Federal Reserve, since we talked about it right now towards the end of the live, because I do have to finalize this live tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, listen, you need to change your screen. You can't say talking to a socialist. You know what's going to get the socialists over here?
Go ahead.
Yes. You got to say, I'll give you $500 if you can tell me socialism was great.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
Then they'll really come, because deep down inside, they're greedy motherfuckers. They're greedy capitalists. And they'll really come. Give me $500 if you can prove to me socialism is right. And they'll come. I'm telling you.
Okay, Mary, how about this? So I'll make you a special guest for sometime next week. I'll message you so we can coordinate. And then I'll make that the topic for that live, and you'll be the special guest.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Perfect.
But
Okay.
get prepared, because they're gonna say that I'm white, so I don't have an opinion because I'm white.
Oh no. That doesn't work here. Okay, so we'll do that. I'll contact you, and Maggie, if you want to come back for that, you're welcome to do so. I think you said you've seen some of my lives before, so you know that I like to have a special guest almost every night. So we'll be doing that. We'll be revisiting this topic, and we can talk about more about Citizens United and the Federal Reserve as well. Those are some very deep topics that I also want to get into here in this platform. So we'll do that. I'll just let you guys just share anything you want to share in regards to the topic that we had tonight: socialism, capitalism. And if you want to say anything MAGA about Citizens United, go ahead as I finalize this live here. You have about a minute.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, and that's important to me. Second of all, socially, I mean, I just don't believe on it, whichever that is, and I never met one. And actually, I'm on the other opposite. I don't even want to discuss it because for me it's a fallacy. And but I do want to reiterate and that you guys follow go into that rabbit hole of Citizen United. It's not that deep because it's not long ago when it was passed through the Supreme Court, but is the core of this chronism is it and if you follow the rabbit hole, you're gonna understand that the same people owns the Republican candidate and the Democrat candidate, and chances are you start going to my side, which is the independent side, where 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 I'm very cautious.
I
Okay.
can't believe you've never met a socialist Mexican, por favor. The Chicano movement are all socialists.
No comment. We're gonna close the topic, but actually,
That's a good
what
topic.
yeah, I got many units at a school about Chicano studies, and
Viva la
obviously,
raza, mijo! Viva la raza!
and then La Raza, it has a specific, not the let me say, not the white confederated MAGA tone he gave to the term La Raza. So it's not a racist angle whatsoever, but it's a topic for another day. But I'm very
Dale,
passionate
hecha.
and knowledgeable about it.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to come back, MAGA. Thank you. I appreciate that. John, go ahead. You have a minute.
Well, I just want to say that every time I try to give you a like, somehow TikTok asked me if I want to complain against you. I have no idea why. If I want to join it, that means I like it. I
I'm
have
sure I'm getting a lot of complaints from liberals already, so that's okay.
I have no idea why TikTok keeps popping up that crazy stuff. But I enjoy every time I join you. I do appreciate the way you conduct your cast and you control it. Very few do it like you do it, and I do appreciate it. That's all I'm gonna say for now.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Mary, go ahead. You have the word. Anything you want to share?
Oh my gosh. What do I say? I don't know. No, nada. Thank you for having us. You did a really great job. Seriously. And the only thing I will say is all you Republicans are closeted libertarians. Come on the side. Come over. Come over. That's all I say. And the government is too big. Let's reduce it. Dale.
Got it. Thank you, Mary. I'll be in touch, and then we'll be talking to a lot of socialists. I promise you.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have fun.
Yep, we
We'll bring
will.
the sazon.
Yes,
Get ready.
exactly. She's hilarious, guys. She got to come back here. Yeah, appreciate that.
Bye.
Have a good night. That's right, guys. So thank you again for joining. Tomorrow, the topic will be tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yes. I'm sorry. It's a lot going on here. Tomorrow, the topic would be Latinos for Trump. I have a special guest tomorrow. She's going to share her experience, and we're going to be asking a lot of questions. And I'm sure we'll get some guests on the opposite end of that. So that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow. And Friday is talking to a socialist. So if she makes it, then we'll be interviewing a socialist, because the one for tonight did not show up. Thank you for watching, guys. Please follow, and I will see you tomorrow.